up, everybody? Welcome to the Men's Show, our monthly men's night gathering with you live here on Awakened Catholic, the Men's Show. Gentlemen, how are you feeling tonight?
Good. My microphone is having its usual problems.
Yeah?
Also good. Fine.
Feeling risky. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So I am Nick Delatorre. We got
John Mark Grodi.
Robert Holler.
Kevin Jory.
All right, gentlemen, tonight we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about some stuff. We're going to go deep. We're gonna have a good time with it, though. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching in the live stream, also, you did hear me correctly. This is a men's show, but I said ladies and gentlemen because it happens to be that for the ladies demographic, the men's show is their favorite. Of all the stuff that we produce here at Awakened Catholic, the men's show is their favorite. So, ladies and gentlemen, join into the comments. Participate in our night.
It's a lot of pressure here.
Do we have more ladies that watch the men's show than men?
I don't know the
There's
answer
like
to
7
that.
people that watch, and like 3 of them are men and 4 of them are ladies.
That's not accurate. That's not accurate. Anyways, join in the comments. Get engaged in the conversations. Ask questions. We had a really great time doing this last time. I guess before we get started, Ethan, roll the thing.
Well, thank you, Nick, and everybody who's watching the live stream here. Before we get to the meat, the content, the chewy stuff, we always begin with a little song to toast our great patrons of this show and of Awakened Catholic in general. And so if you want to pull it up yourself, we will sing it. Do I need to do the app stuff first? Is that going to come later?
Yeah, what's this? Is he going to be here?
Are you ready for me to do the app stuff, or should we sing?
The patron community.
Okay, yeah, but before we get to that, I want to invite you to join our patron community, the League of Ordinary Gentlemen, and ladies are invited too. You can access that via themenshow.com. If you like the show, what we're doing here, what we're trying to do here, this kind of goofy digital men's show and the content that comes out throughout the month, please join us there. There'll be exclusive stuff and conversations in the background. You'll also get and keep access to the live stream, the full unedited live stream of the men's show. You get to see and hear all the crazy stuff that we're going to cut out before we polish it up to go public.
Oh, and it will be crazy.
It will be crazy. So that's the League of Ordinary Gentlemen, and ladies are invited too. And you can access that best via the app, the awakenapp.io is where you can get access to that. I think that's all the main fancy, tasty stuff.
Well, the only other fancy, tasty stuff that I want to share is about the Awaken app. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are not in the Awaken app, you're making a big mistake. You're doing life wrong. Objectively.
It's true.
John Mark doesn't like that.
That's an overstatement.
Don't say objectively.
Get the Awaken app right now. Go to your App Store, your Google Play Store. Get into the Awaken app. It's the best place to find the hub for the content, the glory, the different groups for the different shows. And all of us show hosts are in there. The show hosts for each of the different shows are in there. Rob, stop shaking your head. You're in there. He's got an account. We just got to get him to log in more. Anyways, go to the Awaken app, and you can do it from a computer, an iPad as well, by just visiting theawakenapp.io from your browser.
I like your flannel. That's nice.
Theawakenapp.io. All right. Now we're done with the fancy, delicious stuff.
Yes. Okay. Well, as I was going to say earlier, I jumped the gun a little bit. We have to sing our song to toast our awesome patrons and supporters out there who make all this great stuff at Awakened Catholic possible. So tonight we'll be singing The Wild Colonial Boy, a traditional Irish song. I think it's Irish. I should have looked that up first, but it's obviously Irish. It was in The Quiet Man. So look up the lyrics if you want. We're going to sing. I got to show you your paper here.
Oh, whoa.
I thought you had it memorized, to be honest.
There was a wild colonial boy, Jack Duggan was his name. He was born and raised in Ireland, in a place called Castlemaine. He was his father's only son, his mother's pride and joy. We're back on it. And clearly did his parents love the wild colonial boy. Ethan's carrying us in there.
Does Ethan know this?
At the early age of 16 years, he left his native home and to Australia
Australia's sunny shore, he was inclined to roam. I lost it. He robbed the rich, he helped the poor, he shot James McAvoy. A terror to Australia was the wild colonial boy.
To our patrons, thank you guys very much. I don't have the names up in front of me today.
It's all right. If you want to become
yes.
a patron
was so
of the men's show.
Before we even started that,
and
I was
buy
so
us some
nervous.
singing lessons.
There's 3 more paragraphs. I was so nervous.
Yeah, you just behave yourself next time. I'll tell you what. All right, so what are we talking about tonight, gents? Are we ready to move into the content?
Let's you know what, John Mark? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Oh man, I hear my dog barking
Is
in the
that the
background.
dog?
There must be a human on the sidewalk
The
somewhere.
dog's up there saying, I want to go downstairs and lick John Mark's feet.
And this is
Every
the men's
time I hear
show,
it,
so
it's
Nick,
weird.
of course, has the manliest dog ever, if I'm not mistaken.
It's this big. This
Massive.
big.
It's a huge mastiff. It's
Nope.
crazy.
Nope. It is a small little Pomeranian
It's like
called
this
Fifi.
much body
Fifi's
and like
the
that
best.
much hair. Is like that's kind of how the dog
That's
is.
accurate.
All right, so who's introducing the first topic today?
I will. I'm also trying to pull the chat up here so that I can make sure I'm reading comments and
You want a
stuff.
cigar?
Yes.
You know what?
please.
Light up, gentlemen.
I don't have a cigar for you.
Oh,
It's okay,
Want a
because
pipe?
I don't do it.
Oh, well. Be that way.
Sorry.
All right.
I probably
So
shouldn't introduce any of the topics,
You shouldn't.
being I don't have a strong command of any of them or what they are.
It's okay.
Well, you can be on my side of the table, because
A
I'm
reminder,
right there.
a reminder. Okay, what is the men's show? We're not here speaking as experts. We're obviously not experts here. But what we're trying to do is exemplify and practice the art of good, virtuous, manly conversation. And that's precisely talking about things sometimes that you're not an expert on and not acting like you're an expert,
Yeah.
but trying to seek truth together and trying
that.
to get better perspective, trying to see if we can carry it a little bit further and leave a little bit better men than we were before the conversation.
I've literally never loved anything you said more than this moment.
Dude, I'm feeling it right back at you. Yes.
Cool.
I didn't say
Got
anything.
like a chopper guy.
That wasn't you?
Well, I mean, all right. Anyway, so today, the first topic that we're going to dive into here was inspired by the instigation, shall we say, of the.
No, it was just instigated, man.
It was instigated by.
There you go. Nailed
That
it.
sounds nefarious.
The first topic was instigated by the Synod on synodality, and you might be watching and listening and thinking to yourself, "What the frick is synod or synodality?" These are interesting words. John Mark, do you have like the proper definition of the word synod?
No, but the Bishop of Toledo, our good Bishop Daniel Thomas.
Yes.
Raise your glasses to him, Daniel Thomas. Actually explained that a little bit in his document, Leading the Flock, Communion Participation Mission, where he explained, let's see, the very word synod and synodality mean. Simply put, the word synod comes from the Greek word meaning assembly or meeting, and as presented in the International Theological Commission's 2018 document, synodality in the life and mission of the church. Synodality refers to members of the church moving forward in communion with syn, S-Y-N, Christ, and one another along a path, odos, under the impulse of the Holy Spirit.
Love.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
So, wow.
Sorry.
Whose phone is that?
That was just my alert to say that I said something good. So there you go.
We need a little chime, Ethan.
Ding, ding,
We
ding.
can trigger a little chime every time someone says something good.
The word.
Oh, and don't forget, viewers and listeners, if you want to vote on like who says the best stuff, like last time.
Oh, gosh.
Oh yeah, the best. Who has the best words?
Who has the best words?
words of all the words?
That actually became pretty entertaining. All right, so synod on synodality.
And a
So,
little insulting.
Yeah, I yelled at Pete that night. I felt bad about it.
oh,
Yeah,
that's okay. We're brothers.
I think he forgave me.
Our relationship endures. All of our
I haven't
relationships.
spoken to Pete since.
Oh my gosh. Notice how Pete's not here. All right, so the Synod on Synodality. So one of the things that this has to do with, Pope Francis indicated that he was concerned about how many decisions are made that don't take into account enough of the perspectives or the concerns or even some of the wisdom that some of the laity might have. And so this is kind of a 2-year process that's going to help the leadership in our church reassess the degree to which laity or non-clergy plays a role in leadership, decision-making, that kind of stuff. John Mark, from the article, is there anything you want to follow up with that?
Well, I mean, you said that this was going to be kind of a leaping off point.
Yeah, we're not talking about the synod, but
about the church and kind of the relationships. And so, again, good Bishop Thomas here, our pastor, is giving us some direction right off the bat on how we should be thinking even about the synod. And he says, let's see, he gives us something that two attitudes. Okay, as we embark on such a synodal path in this diocesan preparation phase, two extremes are to be avoided. On the one hand, the attitude or ideology which, even before any mutual prayer and discernment, has decided that it is a waste of time and there can be no worthwhile outcome. That's one extreme. And on the other hand, the attitude or ideology which, even before any mutual prayer and discernment, has decided that the results must change the nature and teaching of the church. And even before that, I didn't read the part before that, but before that, saying that this is not about the church being democratic. We don't have laity and priests getting together to vote on issues in the church. That's not what this is about. But it is about that there is kind of there's a term in the church, the sensus fidei, I think is the term, but the sense of the faithful, the sort of the zeitgeist of the church. And it doesn't mean, again, that the church just moves with the times, but it does mean that part of the living, breathing life of the church is applying the wisdom, applying the principles, applying the doctrines to the new situations of our day. I mean, again, the church has always taught that abortion is wrong, that the human life is valuable, but we've never really had to deal with the specific issues and situations of today. So it's not about coming up with new doctrines or throwing out the old ones, but it's saying, okay, let's apply the old to the new situation. But to do that well, we do have to kind of be in touch with what people are actually going through. And so it would seem to me that if there's going to be something positive out of this, it's the church figuring out how to hold fast to the truth, to the tradition, but be more in touch with the actual needs of the people, and specifically in terms of, again, the strategic plan of Vatican II, keeping that in mind, that called all of us to holiness, it reminded us that we're all called to holiness. So that's what everyone's called to. Are we figuring out on the localist level, like what are the barriers to that? What do we need to do as a church to pursue that? I'm talking too much. I'm going to smoke.
I'll tell you what I do. I post on Facebook and I post on Instagram, and then my job as the laity is done. I've informed the people. Now they know the right thing to do, and I'm done.
That's brilliant.
You're such a gift to the church.
You're welcome. So that's what you have to do, right?
Yeah,
as the laity.
and so this is everything you just explained, John Mark, is right on the money. When I first heard about the synod, I actually
I don't know.
No, why are you smirking?
Well, I don't know.
Because he knows what you're going to say.
I don't know what you're going to say.
Prejudging.
I was thinking about the obviously there's been jokes made about the synod and synodality. It just, even actually the beginning of the bishop's document, it's like synod is said like 9 times in the first 2 sentences, which is kind of funny that you have to say it so much.
Yeah. Okay, so I sent a message.
You asked, man.
I sent a message to my wife asking her to bring down an ashtray for Robin. She hasn't seen the message yet. The bubble is telling me so. So, okay, Google, could you bring down an ashtray, please, my darling? Thank you. I love you. You're amazing and beautiful.
Also, smoking is bad for you.
You didn't say broadcast.
Oh, shoot. Okay, Google, stop. Okay, Google, broadcast. My beloved, could you please bring an ashtray quickly for the cigars that are already lit because we're morons? I love you and you're beautiful.
That was even better than the first
Yeah.
one. That was a good read.
So
And insulting of your friends. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, okay,
Good
conglomerately, we all did not think about this. I was being factual.
Go on with your
Go on.
Anyways.
What were you
I knew the
thinking?
entire time, and I didn't say anything.
All right, so anyways, to the point that you were making, John Mark, which I think you articulated that beautifully. When I first heard about the synod, I was in a context where it was a priest telling his community about it, and there was an excitement. And I also want to clarify for any of our local viewers and listeners, this was not in our diocese that I observed this, but there was an excitement on the part both of the priest and the people in the congregation listening to him. There was an excitement about the idea of the laity having more authority in our church. And so that prompted me to use the synod and the institution of this 2-year process that Pope Francis is taking us on. It led me to think this is a conversation worth having in terms of what is the relationship between the laity and the clergy and authority and leadership and I have my own personal views that I don't think are my personal views. I feel like I have an understanding of the proper way to look at this, but I think that we should talk through this because any of us could be missing some element of this dynamic. And viewers and listeners, whether you're Catholic or Christian, Protestant Christian, this is relevant stuff because a lot of Protestants don't understand the dynamics of authority, just like a lot of Catholics don't understand the dynamics of authority in our church, and what our role is in that. So that's why I wanted to bring this.
Yeah. So authority, right?
Yeah. It really comes down to that conversation.
We're in an age that's so suspicious of authority, and yet everybody wants it for themselves. I once heard somebody say about the Catholic Church. So I work with non-Catholic Christians who are thinking about becoming Catholic. So we're always talking about these issues of authority. And I don't remember which apologist out there once pointed out that the church is the least authoritative institution in history, which sounds crazy because we're always thinking the church is always making rules and the Pope is up there. No, the church is the least authoritative because the church
Thank you so much
is very, very, Andrew is going to correct me.
When did
hold on.
Andrew get here? Andrew, come on in, man.
A brief message from
this.
Andrew. Sorry about. Anyway,
No worries.
the church is here to preserve and protect, but very minimally to try to innovate anything new. It's to protect and preserve the teachings of Christ, the apostolic tradition of the faith, and to apply it. But when people think, I want more authority in the church, I want to get in there and do what I want to do. And the whole church's point is there to be a steward of what it has.
Yeah, it's not the church's job to decide the truth and to distribute it to the people. It's to discern the truth and to discover the truth and to proclaim it.
Yeah. Well, and that it described like that. It's like, well, then that to some degree that is the job of every Catholic. Is that part of it?
And authority, really, we speak with authority when we speak the truth. I think that's fundamentally true. Would you say that? Because when we don't speak with the truth, in a very deep sense, we don't speak with authority.
But I think that the challenge with that
then you can't just say, I'm deciding the truth now.
Right. What is the truth? What do we base that on? Because a lot of people, I've known a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, and I don't mean the political aisle, I mean the church aisle. I've known people who feel very passionate about their traditional approach to faith, and I've known people that feel very passionate about their more charismatic approach to faith. And then those aren't even the only two categories, but they are kind of presented as though they're juxtaposed often, which I don't think is fair anyways. But I've known people coming from these different angles that in the passion that they feel for their tradition, their expression of the faith, they can very quickly latch on to certain ideas that may or may not be explicitly from the heart of the church, or maybe are too one-dimensional. They aren't reflective enough of a broader worldview, a broader understanding of what the church is positing. And so, yeah, Kevin, you look like you're having thoughts listening to that.
I am brand new in the church as well, so I thought through these things. I just came into the church in April, and all of these were going through my head at the same time. Just to circle back to the Protestant thing real quick. A lot of Protestants don't know that, if there's any Protestants watching, that your church has an authority. If you're in the Methodist church, if you're in the Lutheran church, they have bishops. Someone is making decisions on what is in your liturgy. So you cannot escape the authority no matter what you do. And I think that's very important. So if we know that there has to be an authority, it might as well be the church that Jesus founded. And that's why I became Catholic, because that is the truth. But when we're discerning what is me as the laity, what am I supposed to do? I think a lot of times the best thing the laity can do is just to be really good moms and dads.
Ooh,
I think if you raise a holy Catholic family that images, the actual Holy Family, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, then you're already doing a really good job. And if we can start there, then all of these other decisions become a lot easier.
In some sense, the church, people have it upside down when they are desiring authority, or they're too worried over the authority. Because again, we need to think of it in the other way around. The family, or the individuals in community living out the Christian life. That's sort of the peak and pinnacle of the Christian life. The peak and pinnacle of the Christian life isn't like what's happening in a synod or in the Vatican. Like that's an important part of the church. It's necessary. It's part what the Holy Spirit has given us. But that's not where the life of the church happens. The life of the church happens in people's homes, in our local parish, in our neighborhoods where we're actually carrying out our Christian lives. And so again, the church and her hierarchy and the authority is there to preserve and safeguard and interpret the truth in new and weird ages we find ourselves in. But we can't get into this thing where we're kind of like turning our attention to that and getting so worried about it that we're stopping living the actual Christian life, which that is our business. That is the business of the laity, is to actually carry out the life of the church.
I love that. Yeah. And Kevin, you got some props in the comments for your comments. And I guess by extension, John Mark, since you were kind of piggybacking on that,
No, it's all Kevin.
And we got Mike Tenney saying that Rob has the best words. In general, it seems, it followed up by Tenney also saying, but Kevin has the best words on Facebook. Yeah, and that is so true, Kevin. I mean, that idea of like the notion even of a non-denominational church is such a misnomer because essentially a non-denominational church is a denomination, and it properly would be named after whoever that pastor is.
Right.
Right.
Because that's the one person making the authoritative decisions,
right,
leading his flock, and now
right,
he's the Jesus.
Or the Pope.
The Jesus.
The Pope.
The Pope. That's much better.
Yeah.
I accidentally did a big Lebowski reference.
No, but that is a great point. And then, whether you're a Protestant in that circumstance or a Catholic, like we can find ourselves having that tendency to like, oh, I know better than my church leadership. I know. Yeah. And so I think part of the question to discuss here too is like, why is this a relevant question? Like, we were just talking about family being the principal expression of our faith. Yes, sir?
Maybe the families are broken right now.
I think the big question.
If you want.
I vote Rob talks now.
Okay. I don't want to interrupt anyone.
This is a synod.
All I do is interrupt everybody.
We are way past that.
This is a Democratic synod, and I vote unilaterally that Rob talks next.
Thank you, Thank you, John Mark. I think the kind of question we're not honing in on is like, we think of the authority of the church and the authority we have as Christians, and like, how is that authority the same, and how is that authority different? What do we owe to our hierarchy? What deference, listening, disposition, obedience, what does that look like versus the authority that we have?
That's a great question.
Especially, I think a lot of people find themselves in conflict, and many times I think that conflict can be resolved from listening and discerning mutually. Synodality. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
wow.
Shoot.
We see it.
Full circle.
I'm unconvinced.
Pit ourselves against, the authority of the church puts us in a very bad position.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we defer our responsibility to discern the truth and just like, simply everything we hear. I don't know. How do you say that? It's necessary for us to participate in that process.
What process?
Which process?
Well, the process of discerning truths and things like that.
And I think that's the heart of what the synod is about.
Applying it, or like actually living out the faith.
Discerning, applying it.
Yeah. Of course, there's a bunch of things to keep in mind here. We do know that part of the reason that Bishop Thomas even has to address those two extremes is because those two extremes are alive in the church, and it's easy to get sucked into them. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons it's easy to get sucked into them is because we're in this weird place in history, unique place in church history, where the Pope, trips, coughs loudly on an airplane, and like it's all over social media suddenly.
Yeah.
We've never been in a place in history where like the regular people trying to live out their faith are getting like moment to moment coverage of what's going on in the Vatican.
Quite poor coverage, I might add.
And it's not necessary to we have the catechism, we have the sacraments, we can live out the Christian life. And so again, the church and the hierarchy and the synods, there's purposes for those, and hopefully we pray for them that they will fulfill their purposes. But it's very easy to kind of like take our eyes off the ball of where we're actually called to live out the faith.
It's
And
like getting sucked into the news. Like we're just
It
like,
is,
what's new
yeah.
and what's novel
Right.
and what's something to argue about and that's changing, rather than what's real to me in my direct life and what am I called to do right now. It
totally.
can be a real distraction.
And to be like 100% honest, I heard the word synod on synodality, heard no other coverage or anything, and I instantly thought talk on talking. But the bishop's statement was just so good, and it, yes, we are talking. Or so he says that the word synod is Greek for meeting. So it's like a meeting on meetings, or maybe this is another document I read. Sorry, guys. Not an expert. But like a meeting on meetings, but there was context for synodality, like a meeting on meetings, and it's how we meet each other. So it's a meeting on how we meet each other, and we need to talk about how we're walking with each other and that type of thing. So I feel like the wording probably could have been a little better. The branding, maybe a little bit better. That picture that comes with it, maybe a little bit better. We're not specifically talking about, this is a launching off point, but just, 100% honesty. Like, it's very easy to hear something and then, our biases click. And then it's like, oh yeah, I need to fight against those things.
Yeah.
But
It is again, we're not perfect people. We're not in a perfect church.
Okay,
and
speak for yourself,
And
John
there's it's entirely possible that there are, as people suspect, there's some bureaucracy here. There's some of this stuff that maybe isn't great, that's unnecessary. But again, we have to remain in a place of peace. And so the notion of synodality, I mean, it's kind of, to get meta here for a moment, it's kind of what we're trying to practice on this show.
Yeah.
Like, we don't come, as we said at the beginning, we don't come on the show as experts, pretending to be experts, or getting on the show to tell you exactly what to believe because I said it. No, we're here as just fellow Catholics trying to live out the faith. And what we're trying to practice is synodality.
Nice.
That we get together, we hear each other, we try to express the truth as best as we understand it, but we also allow ourselves to have insight, the ways that we didn't see it before. We're practicing the art of conversation, the art of accompaniment, the art of trying to live the faith together. And
I still don't like the word synodality, but I agree with everything you just said.
So,
you put the sin in synodality there.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
so is it
for real.
right to have the understanding though that the synodality's focus is between specifically the clergy and the laity?
I don't know. Is that the?
Is that true?
Every quote that I've read from Pope Francis indicates that.
Okay, so I mean, there's another great point there too. One thing that Teresa and I have talked often on Elevate Ordinary, and it's just part of our lives, is that we often see diocesan priests, for instance, that live very solitary lives, and in this, especially in the weird world we live today, with all the suspicion and the scandals and stuff like that, they're more isolated.
Yeah.
They're more like, I'm just going to live my quiet little bachelor life and do my stuff, whatever, and they don't have families inviting them over to dinner. They don't feel comfortable, and they're not invited to stay in touch with the people they're trying to serve. We love the example of John Paul II. I mean, he was such a man's man. He was such a family guy. He would do these trips with these students when he was a young priest. He stayed very connected to people, and I think that really was reflective then in his papacy of how he was able to really speak powerfully the gospel into people's lives in this really real human way. But I think that would seem to me to be something that we would want to talk about and understand. Like, what is that relationship supposed to look like? Is the priest supposed to be off, kind of on a mountain and the people are just there? Or like, what is that relationship between the pastors and their flocks?
Something that came to mind as you were saying that was the simplicity of the times versus what we have right now. And that's kind of what you were getting at at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
Like, I think about, Poland back in that day, what it would have been to be a pastor of a parish then versus being a pastor of a parish now here in America in 2021. You're a business manager as much as you are a sacramental priest.
Right.
And that to me is a problem. Like, you're an administrator of a business, and you weren't trained to be a CEO or a, you know what I mean? Like, and so you're oppressed by all this stress, anxiety, and so many of the parishes are struggling financially and have all these different pressures. And so there's so many dynamics at play now that the pastors of our parishes are having to juggle, not to mention very rarely having other priests with them serving at that same parish. So not only are they the business administrator, but they're also the only priest often. And in contrast with what I have to imagine would have been the case, just from the bits I've read from, for example, the book that Jason Everett wrote about John Paul II and stuff, the dynamic would have been so different. He was primarily their pastor, and he had the freedom to serve them that way. And I think just the simplicity of what life was back then, it made such a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, so that's part of this. We have the truths, we hold on to the truths, but then we still have to actually try to live them out in this day and age. And each age presents new challenges. And so we can't just do the same old thing in the same way we've always been doing it if it's not working.
That's a great
so
point.
We have to apply it to the time.
And I think one of the challenges for me, like when I saw this community getting all excited about, oh, we're going to have a bigger voice in the church and we're going to have more authority as lay people, it really struck a nerve for me, because one of the things that drew me to Catholicism was the authority of the bishops and priests, apostolic succession. I mean, that literally is the reason to be Catholic, and then for me, in the context of my journey, it's the reason to believe in God, the apostolic succession. And so the idea that God can, I mean, the fact that we have this incredible lineage from now all the way to the original apostles of ordained bishops through the laying on of hands that we have, like, essentially in paperwork. Yes, Rob?
Just, I mean, not to counter that, but, that also, as baptized Christians, we are drawn into that lineage in a sense.
Yes.
And we do have a participation
The priesthood of all believers.
in our own place in life.
And that's why this is a conversation, because it does get a little bit muddy, but there is, without question, a distinction between what they are and what we are.
Yeah, and none of us are bishops of diocese. Like we can, I mean, it's what people do when they watch a football game. They're quarterbacking from the couch. And we're sitting on the couch and we're trying to call the plays when we're not the bishop of Rome. We're not the bishop of our diocese.
Yeah, I mean, the football team is actually a good analogy. Thinking of again the fact here that some people, when they see difference or when they see hierarchy, they want to eliminate difference. They want to eliminate hierarchy. Yeah. Rather than recognizing, no, like for instance, men and women. Well, men need to be manly men. Women need to be womanly women, feminine women. I don't know.
Yeah, why not?
They need to be fully themselves. The point isn't to try to eliminate difference. The point is to try to be fully whom you were created to be. And so we have different roles in the church. And like, again, there is a priesthood of all believers. We do have an authority by our baptism to carry out Christ's work in our lives. But that's our specific mission. And again, Vatican II reminded us all, we're all called to be holy. It's not just the priests. It's not just the monks. It's not just them that are called to be radically sold out for the gospel. No, they're called to be radically holy and fully, all in the gospel in their role, but we are too in ours. And that's how the life of the church works. And so, again, we need to discuss how that harmony of roles works in this age. But this shouldn't be an excuse for anyone to take the eye off the ball of their own vocation that they can fully live out, even if the church is messy, even if there are bad bishops, or even if the church is just a messy family, we can still live out our vocation.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Absolutely. And it makes me think about, like, early in my journey back to faith, or for the first time faith that meant anything in my life. There were a couple of relationships I had early on, brotherhood, that made a huge difference and impression in my understanding of, like, respecting authority, which was super ironic because I came back to the church for the authority. Once I was in it, I found myself getting very frustrated by certain things that I thought weren't being done the way they should be. Rob, you were one of the people that early on really challenged me to, even in frustration about certain things that a certain priest was doing, to still respect and treat with dignity their priesthood and their role, their vocation, and find a way to channel and express what I was concerned about that still did not contradict the dignity with which I should hold them in my own heart and mind. And to this day, there are moments where I'll catch myself and I'll go back in memory to a certain conversation. I still remember where we were sitting, where you challenged me that way. And I really appreciated that back in that time, because it turns out since then I've had to do a lot of work with a lot of priests and even bishop, and that conversation has made such a big impact in the way I interact with them since then. So I appreciate that. But my concern, and Kevin, I want to hear what you're about to say, but my concern is, how do we, in the day-to-day, where there is space to me for this synod on synodality is sometimes they don't see the full picture that we might see because of our different vocations. Sometimes there are things that they're a little bit blind to, because all of us are very blind to whatever's not right in front of us, right in our scope of vision. And so and I can say with confidence and love and compassion for our priests and bishops, because of the work I've had to do, I can say with confidence, though, they do need other perspectives. And so how do we do that in practice?
It's a great way to put it.
I have the exact answer.
Okay.
Kevin's got it.
Perfect.
Everybody,
You're
well
welcome.
done. Vote in the comments.
Are you ready?
Ready for it?
I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
Star Trek.
What? What does that even mean?
All right.
Wait.
Okay.
Just think about it, though, for a moment.
Just think.
Star Trek.
All right. I'm sorry that I made you think about that. All right. So, like you're saying, our priests, they're going to make mistakes, but they're leading us into battle. Like our priest, our bishop, the Pope, they're leading us into battle. Of course, they're going to make mistakes, but what does Jean-Luc Picard do from The Next Generation? Come on, guys.
Ethan's over there going, amen. What?
Ethan knows. Ethan's my homie. All right.
I
So
do not know.
it's a huge table, and he listens to all the perspectives, right? Which is kind of like what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And, it makes people think. Different people have different perspectives. He takes all of that in, and then he has to make a choice, because you have to make a choice, and it's better to make a choice sometimes. Okay, not always, but it's better to make a choice usually than to not make a choice. And if a choice has to be made, it's better to get the perspectives. You go into battle, and a lot of times when you're in battle, the worst thing you can do is stay idle, because then the enemy takes over.
So in other
great
words,
example,
we should have a synod on synodality.
But like John Mark said, there's bureaucracy, there is politics
No,
and
but
all that.
that's great.
But that would be the ideal, of course.
So what you said, Nick, and then the example you gave are, again, great ones. I mean, I don't know how we're doing on time here, but
We should bring it in for a landing.
well, let's make it real practical then. Again, so again, where is the virtue of obedience in the life of the Christian? Like, what are the do's and don'ts of relating to the hierarchy of the church, the authority of the church? I mean, some of the easy, obvious don'ts are like, okay, I'm a little disgruntled about something in the church. Getting on social media and complaining about it doesn't do anyone any good.
Don't be like me, guys.
It does nothing.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I mean, so
I've never seen you do
They're
that.
just like, if we were to make a don't list, like we just see that everywhere in the church today. The don't list. It's just like all obvious out there. We should be praying for our priests.
Yes.
We should go be speaking to our pastors individually, constructively about our concerns. We should be focusing more on our bishop, praying for him, write him a letter, talk to him, really listen to his words, his attempt to guide. I think a point that you made, Kevin, there, or you were kind of making, was that
Totally
in any organization, any group, whether it's the church or a business or whatever that,
or the Star Trek Enterprise.
like you do need to. There has to be this dynamic of like the leader needs to lead.
Yeah.
Right. And so like he needs perspective, he needs some pushback, but ultimately we have to be moving in a direction. And so there has to be like a right interplay of us, giving the proper honor to the authority of the church, the people in the church, praying for our leaders, and then doing our job damn well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And and having a real relationship with our priests, the priests we know. I feel like we often, like, you get the people from the pews who go up and tell the pastor what they think, give him his ear. Like I work for the church, and like I know that happens a whole lot. But like to be in relationship with our priest and to tell them the truth, your experience, your perspective in love, and I think there's a great deal of mutuality that can happen from there, but not when you don't know them or when you don't care about them.
That's
if you're
exactly
just
right.
like, this is a person and I disagree with him on, maybe this and this, and that's your disposition towards them, and this is not somebody who I love and who is for better, for worse, a father in my life.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
And then coupled with that, I think humility, like the humility to really understand that while it's important for you to be honest, you very likely could also be wrong. There might be things you don't know that the pastor knows, that the parish council knows, or whatever. There might be considerations that you are incapable of having that would make your opinion completely a moot point. They're just the humility that if you want your pastor to be humble enough to discover he's wrong about something, you need to be that humble too. And I think that's a really important point too. So this has been great. I was hopeful this would be a good topic, and I think it is. I mean,
I'm feeling very synodal.
You're
right
feeling
now.
synodal?
I'm feeling the synergy.
I'm feeling synodalical.
That's pretty delicious what you just said
Ladies
right
and
there.
gentlemen,
I'm feeling cynical.
if you have enjoyed
The synapses are firing, I mean, it's just amazing.
the synodaxes, no, that's too far. Anyways, that's too much.
Your syntax is a little off there, Nick.
Yeah.
Moving on.
So if you have enjoyed this topic and it has in any way benefited your heart and mind,
On this syndicated show,
Syndal.
we got to go to the next topic.
Visit
Please.
themenshow.com
This is
and
terrible.
become a patron today. And there's a lot of fun stuff that you get by joining.
all I can think of are SYN
Gregory
words now.
Wright says, we are not the Bible believing church. Okay, maybe just a quick little
Nice.
detour on that one. Gregory, thank you so much for your comment, number one. We actually do believe in the Bible. We actually compiled the Bible.
We did not. I just.
Well, it
make a
wasn't us.
distinction.
We weren't around.
Rob had a hand in it.
I was not there.
Perhaps what Gregory is alluding to is that there is a conception in some, again, wings of the divided Christianity we're in, of that we are a religion of the book. Again, of a scripture alone, like that the whole life of the church
I'm a
comes out of
Bible
Scripture.
believing American right here. I tell you
Kevin is.
what.
Oh, gosh.
But that's not
how-
the structure of the church. The Bible,
I talk like that sometimes.
the canon of Scripture came out of the life of the church,
Yes.
the liturgy of the church.
It was
And
a council of bishops.
and so it is a premier. It's an important source. It's one of the legs of the stool there in terms of the root of our tradition of our faith, but it's also there with the tradition of the church and the authority of the church. It's all that together. So no, we're not merely the religion of the book as some parts of Christianity would look at it, but it's an important
the
piece.
book came forth from the church.
Yes. Yeah.
And the church did not come forth from the book.
Correct.
That's a great question, though. We should do like more Q&A.
Yeah,
stuff.
we should. So
we should do
viewers,
that,
listeners, Greg, thank you so much. Gregory, I don't know if you go by Greg or Gregory. Thank you so much for that comment, and keep them coming, everyone. We would love to interact that way. And I'll maybe tie that with a bow by saying there were centuries, hundreds of years that the Christian church that we would come to know as the Catholic Church that we have today, the Christian church survived without a New Testament. There were writings, there were letters, there were gospels, there was a whole lot of stuff. And it was out of a concern for consistency, out of a concern for us to have what?
Oh, I'll say it after you're done.
We
I'm
need
scared
to
now.
wrap this episode up, brothers.
It was out of a concern for everyone to be looking at the same stuff and for that stuff to be the right stuff that the bishops came together and said, let's put together an official canon that would become the New Testament, that we would all get to read together at Mass. The Bible was really put together for the Mass. And it's a blessing that we each get to have one at home. But if that was Jesus's primary concern, that we would each have a Bible and that the Bible would be the only source of truth, then he would have left us both the canon of the New Testament and a divine printing press, neither of which he left us. He left us the church. John Mark?
I was just going to say this funny meme that I saw on Facebook.
Oh, gosh.
One of the guys I follow, the Catholic Redneck, super funny.
Oh, my gosh.
All he's a great guy. All he says is, Jesus started a church. He didn't start a book club. That's all you need to know.
That's actually really funny.
Did you dress just so that you were ready
Yeah,
to
is
say
that,
that
are
quote
you
today?
like channeling him right now?
You were like ready for that one.
He's my uncle, actually.
But Gregory, sorry, I definitely don't want to seem flippant whatsoever, because your concern is a very valid one. But hopefully, somewhere within our being silly, but also hopefully informative. Hopefully, there was a response there that was helpful.
visit the Coming Home Network. For more
absolutely.
That's a great
what
idea.
about
yeah.
the meme?
about that. Oh, the meme. Well, the meme was
memes.
there are two types of Pauline epistles. There's one where my brothers and sisters in Corinth, God be with you, and then there's would you little weirdos just like not go crazy when I leave for like 2 seconds? Like those are the two, because that's what many of the books of the New Testament were.
Yeah,
They were Paul's
absolutely.
letters to different communities about what was going on in
Right,
the
right.
community.
That's what's going to happen with the synod. They're just like trying to get all of our opinions so they understand all of the bad things we're doing, and then St. Paul's going to come down
Write
and
some
lay the hammer down.
epistles.
Exactly.
Epistles.
Alrighty. Well,
Sorry, guys.
Gregory, thank you for that. Okay, so again,
What else are we talking about
themenshow.com if you want to join our patron community, and make sure to check out theawakenapp.io. All right.
Hi-yo.
So second topic. Who wants to bring this one in?
Do you guys need a quick beverage break or anything like that?
I'm good.
You're
for this
good?
one.
All right.
I'm good
Maybe in the second, after the second one.
Maybe I'll have
Who wants to start this
Ethan
one
bring
out?
us something.
Water type things?
Also, Ethan's our new producer in the background.
Ethan,
the next
come in
time,
here.
The next time we do a live stream, we're gonna have a camera on Ethan in the control
Awesome.
room. So that's super exciting.
Ethan can.
I just want to laugh cam.
A laugh cam.
Maybe later.
All right.
Okay, so we're talking about the Eucharist. We're talking about we're talking about receiving the Eucharist. Here's a question. Okay, if you were to go back a few hundred years in the church, actually, if you read like Saint Teresa Lisieux's autobiography or some of the writings of her parents, just a few short hundred years ago, people didn't receive the Eucharist very often. Like they
didn't bathe very often either.
I don't know if it was for the same reason. Maybe it was spiritually. I don't know.
Actually, that's interesting.
Like actually, there's this book that we have again from I think a couple hundred years ago describing the prayer life of a child. And it's kind of it's all in rhyme. It's this beautiful old book that we have, and it talks about the kid like once a year. A very special thing. They're going to confession. They're getting all ready. The whole family's getting all ready to receive the Eucharist, so that it wasn't as it was normal for us now to be receiving all the time. Okay, so now in canon law, I mean in the teaching of the church, it's not that anything that is wrong, and the church has encouraged us to make ourselves. To avail ourselves of this great sacrament, this great opportunity that we have in the modern world to receive frequently the Eucharist. The question is this question of receiving worthily, and there's a lot of things we can talk about tonight. There's the question of not receiving in a state of mortal sin. That's one of the things you don't do. You don't do if you need to go to confession. But also even just the question of like what does it really mean to receive worthily? To not discern, as it says in the New Testament, to discern the body and blood of Jesus. Because if you receive without discerning that, whatever that means, then you eat and drink condemnation on yourself. So receiving worthily would seem to be only even more important in an age where we receive frequently. So I just figured we'd talk about that tonight. What does it mean to receive worthily? What does it mean to prepare well to receive the Eucharist?
Well, at its base, fundamental principle, it would be, like you said, not receiving while in a state of mortal sin.
Yeah.
Right? To me, though, the question of what do you...
Holding up the app in case you guys want to tell anybody about it.
Kevin wants you to know about the app. Let's we'll circle back to it. Don't let us forget to come back to that. But to me, where were we at here? The receiving worthily,
Yes.
mortal sin.
Mortal sin.
To me, there's a fundamental question that doesn't get asked enough, and that is, how easy is it to mortally sin?
Yeah.
I love that question.
Yeah, what is a mortal sin, right? And we can give the basic the church's basic criteria, but I think it bears some discussion always because I think I got them here someplace. I mean, we can say them generally. I don't know if I have the exact wording that the Catechism has.
I've got it.
Nail it. Do it.
This is from the Catechism 1859. Mortal sin requires full knowledge and complete consent. It presupposes knowledge of the sinful character of the act, of its opposition to God's law. It also implies a consent sufficiently deliberate to be a personal choice. Feigned ignorance and hardness of heart do not diminish, but rather increase the voluntary character of a sin. There's a bunch more. It's a great section on it. Real quick, for a sin to be mortal, 3 conditions must be met that are super important. First, let me get back here. The mortal sin is sin whose object is grave matter and which is also committed with full knowledge and deliberate consent. So grave matter, full knowledge, deliberate consent.
Consent of will.
So a lot of times we use, for the first one, the grave matter, a lot of times we use the 10 Commandments as kind of a barometer of, like, is it grave matter? And we kind of consider a violation of the 10 Commandments of any of them to be grave matter by and large, but not necessarily across the board, right? So we actually just had Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers here in one of the episodes that we recorded with him. He gave a really, I think, important explanation of the difference between the different kinds of, like, bearing false witness, for example. So you might look at the commandment to not bear false witness as just an across the board lying at all for any reason is a mortal sin. And Deacon Harold proposed that that's not explicitly the case, that there are lies that can damage someone, there are lies that can hurt someone, there are lies that, or not even necessarily lies, even the implication that bearing false witness is just about lying. You know, you could be gossiping about someone, you could be slandering, destroying someone's name. That type of lying or gossiping or whatever, that type of false witness is mortal sin. But if I were to tell John Mark, I bought a donkey today, the moral weight of that lie is like a feather.
What if I got, like, really excited about the fact that you had a pet donkey?
If I told you that because I knew how much you like donkeys and it, like, could lead you to tears
crushed.
at the thought of getting to pet my donkey upstairs, if I was trying to hurt you through that, that'd be different.
What if we were reenacting Jesus riding in on a donkey and Rob was supposed to play him? And all of a sudden, this donkey is the most
This was Rob's
important
big
thing.
moment.
I often play the donkey
In the spotlight.
No, you're playing Jesus. Did I say it wrong? My bad.
okay,
My bad.
okay.
If I said it
I
wrong,
got
my bad.
confused.
But
I think we're
this could be bad.
I think we're getting off the
Just saying.
No,
off
this
the
is
rails
We
here.
sold tickets to this event.
No, but I think that's important because a lot of times we can be very scrupulous about, like, we especially when we're, like, pursuing faith and we're trying to become holy, we're trying to be the best Catholics we can be really scrupulous, and we can end up being unfair and unmerciful to ourselves. And now that's not to say we should, like, be okay with sinning, but it is important for us to acknowledge many of us aren't probably in a mortal state as often as we think we might be. So if you're addicted to something like masturbation, if you're actually addicted, and it is possible to be addicted, in fact, it's very, very possible to be addicted to that, you actually don't have the same type of freedom to really not do that.
That deliberate consent of will is a little bit
It's fuzzier.
attenuated there.
Yeah. Or same thing with, like, an alcohol addiction. Like, you really, really have to go through, some type of therapy or a process, 12-step process. You need something that will help you. You can't just, like, will it, white knuckling it on your own. And it's a very real thing. And the same goes for a lot of different kinds of things. And so, like, mortal sin, like, it really does take a lot for something to actually be a mortal sin.
But we'll also,
that's not-
I think, getting too caught on the external act of, like, I committed a mortal sin versus I am in a state in my life where I am cut off from God. I feel like, it can be a number of sins or a path or something we've been on for some time. And, like, we can get it in place. We are no longer living in God's grace and we're cut off from God. And I don't, to me, being, like, I think the externals are important to consider and discern, and very well can be indications that we've cut ourselves off from God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, the clarity of which, I think it takes a lot of discernment and prayer.
Yeah. I think it's specifically a matter of discernment and prayer. And we're getting into a subtle but I think important aspect of this whole discussion. Someone can correct me if I'm really, really wrong here, but it appears to me that, again, in the church, in the catechism, in the documents of the church uses the term grave matter significantly. It uses that term for, like, NFP, right? And, like, if a couple discerns for a grave reason that they they need to space out the kids, then they can decide to not have sex, whatever. for a grave reason. But does it give you a list, like a nice shopping list of those grave reasons? Well, no. And I think there's significance there because, again, this gets back to our last episode. We as individuals have a grave responsibility to discern honestly and sincerely, our relationship with our spiritual director, with the church. I can't look into your life and say definitively, the state that you are in. That is something that you have to figure out with God and the church and your priest, and so do I have to mind. And that's not any excuse for that people can just make up their own truth. That's not what we're saying here. We're saying that what the whole picture of a sin, the external content as you're talking about, Rob, but also what was really going on in my heart. Again, the external thing might be a very small tip of the iceberg. Someone might tell you that was no big deal that you that you brushed off that person, where you may know in your heart how deliberate that was, what you intended.
Yes,
you may have intended to hurt someone badly.
Yes.
So again, the point is the church's moral theology recognizes the whole phenomenon of sin. There's the external act and its content and its nature, and that's important. But there's also what you were intending, what you knew, how much you really meant it. And some of those questions don't have easy on-off answers. And so again, it places a very high responsibility, a grave responsibility to take sin seriously, to discern it carefully. And I don't know what else to say on that particular.
No, but that's super solid.
You made a good point before the podcast started about how some saints in their lives, as they've continued on their journey, they felt more cut off from God from what seemingly very small things.
Right.
You had
things
mentioned
that we would brush off on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And
are they just scrupulous? Are they just being silly? Or
are they, had they become grave in their life because of their relationship with God? And I can't answer that.
Right.
I have no idea.
Maybe they're seeing the sin for what it maybe again
That's what it
this
is,
question
yeah.
of knowledge.
That's what it is.
I can only see faintly the greatness of God because I'm not a very holy guy, but I can also only see the grossness, the awfulness of sin for the same reason.
Yeah.
Whereas you proceed down that path, they actually get a glimpse more of who God is, but also of the travesty that sin is. So there is, again, that's what you see in the lives of the saints, them being so remorseful, even over very small offenses against our Lord.
Well, we see even biologically that our bodies work a similar way to our spirits when it comes to sin. Like our bodies work for example, with alcohol, similarly to what we're describing here. So like the more entrenched in a life of debauchery that you are, the more alcohol it takes for you to really be aware, like, oh, I am under the influence now. But if you rarely have a sip, when you have a sip or half a glass, you're going to be like, oh, I feel this.
Oh, yes.
And so that kind of reminds me of the example of the saints that you brought up. Like, it's not a question of like certain sins not being wrong for us that are wrong for them. It's like they are more attuned to the wrongness or the effect of it, the impact of it, because they aren't swimming in it like we might be.
Right. Yeah, we always got to set. Again, this gets back to the fundamental inability to really judge another person. We can judge their externality of their act, the content of it. We never know. Well, what do they really like? What does it mean to know that something's wrong? Like, does my kid know something's wrong? Does my 8-year-old? Does my 10-year-old know? Like, what a person really knows is not something I, on the outside, can tell about them. They have to kind of discern that and figure out how much did I know, and to what degree did I fully, deliberately will this thing.
Yep.
No one can answer that for them. They have this grave responsibility in the sight of God to discern that and answer that, and be apologetic.
But when in doubt, my disposition has always been one: get to confession. Get to confession.
Yeah.
And I do feel like we do have a culture that is, what do you say?
Enabling.
If you're going to mass, you're going to receive. Like that's generally everybody receives Holy Communion. And there are not a lot of people who say, you know what, I'm not sure, or I know I'm not in the place. I don't see that conclusion drawn very often. And I wonder, should we be more discerning than we are?
And again, we can't answer that for somebody else. I will say I would talk to my buddy from Peru.
Sometimes we can. If they're like, publicly, I support this sin and it's bad, don't do it.
Yeah, there really isn't a matter of discernment if you're like a public official who's
I
like,
take pride in this sin.
yeah, like
and I am pushing things for it.
some things
I'm not
are
talking about
objectively
anyone in
wrong
particular.
no matter who you are.
This
Well,
could be anybody.
I'm going to time out. That's a whole nother topic.
But it kind of goes into like we don't need to like do any of that. But like there's a little bit like public versus private. Like, and you've said this before, which I think is brilliant. Like there's a difference like between like someone publicly doing it and then someone like privately struggling. Like I have an issue with this specific thing and I'm trying like my heart out.
Right.
You know, like
Because it causes scandal.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
which is
totally.
itself, I mean, that's another thing too. Yeah, if it's causing scandal, then that's also an additional sin. If you're giving that's what scandal means, is to give a false image of who God is. And if the image you're giving is that the moral doctrines of the church don't matter, well, that's an issue in itself. What I was going to say, I just didn't want to miss it. My buddy from Peru reports to me that in the Catholic culture down there, it's far more normal. When people go up to communion, well, like maybe half the people go up, and the rest don't.
That's awesome.
And it's, again, the presumption in everybody's mind is, oh, look at those terrible sinners. It's just that, no, that it's part of the culture there that they're more discerning of, have I prepared? Have I discerned worthily?
Yeah.
And again, this is not to get people to be scrupulous, because again, I can't discern this for anybody else other than myself. But there have been times that I've been in sin that I needed to go to confession. There have been also a few times where I didn't have one. You were talking about this earlier. One particular sin, but it's like it had been long enough, and enough venial stuff had just piled up. Where I just had a lot of anger in my heart. It was my decision in that moment that, I'm going to spiritually receive. I'm going to be in the presence of God. I'm going to perhaps allow God to increase my desire for Him, but I'm going to. Fast from the Eucharist, abstain from the Eucharist,
Right, yeah.
and I'm going to go to confession, and that was how I discerned for me. But that's, again, your mileage may vary. You have to discern that in your spiritual life from a place of peace.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that makes perfect sense. I think it was Father Mike Schmitz that I was just listening to that said that the venial sins that you commit, right, like, you're absolved of them when you go to Mass, right? Like right at the beginning. But they have an inkling, or not an inkling, but they have a tendency to add up over time. And exactly what you were describing there is like they add up over time, and then I need to go to confession. Even though the venial sins are absolved, it's almost like there's something missing, right? So I've heard people say that it's almost like you need a devotion to go to, like it's a separate devotion to go to confession. So like confession truly does, absolve you if you do it the right way. There's other things about confession if you do it the right way. Yeah. But like it's almost like you need it. Like Jesus doesn't need that. God doesn't need that. It's like we need that.
Yeah.
We need to go to someone and say, "Hey, I've messed up."
Yeah.
And then we need counsel, we need guidance, and we need absolution as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've been thinking lately the irony throughout the New Testament of whenever Jesus makes a distinction between the righteous and the sinners, right? I didn't come for the righteous. I came for the sinners. And of course, like half the room's like, oh, thank heavens. He's there for those terrible people, right? And of course, the irony is that if you read between the lines in the gospel, and Jesus knows this, and he's just waiting for the people to figure it out, is that there's not really those two camps. There aren't the righteous and the sinners. There are the sinners who know they're sinners, and that's why they run up to Jesus and say, "Son of David, have mercy on me. I need healing from this sin. I need healing from this leg. I need healing from this leprosy. Yeah. I am in need. I am fundamentally weak and incapable on my own. I need your help." And then there's those people who for some reason think that they don't need the Lord.
Yeah.
There isn't the righteous and the sinners. There's the sinners and those who realize that they're sinners and need mercy.
So let's address that. Let's look at this is going to be what we end this conversation on. Looking at the reality that we're sinners, that we're in need of mercy, or the analogy that we're sick in need of a doctor, we're sick in need of healing. Looking at the Eucharist as food for the journey.
Yeah.
And I've heard it discussed, and I understand where they're coming from when this is said.
Yep.
That being food for the journey, and that we are, sinners in need of that help.
Yep.
That the Eucharist, even if we are in a state of sin, now I don't know if they meant mortal or venial, but
right.
the principle here, being in a state of sin, all the more we need the Eucharist. So let's talk about that for 3 minutes.
Such a
I
good
wouldn't take
question.
that to mean like to receive. I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't mean that to receive when you are aware that you are cut off from God. You know, I don't know. I feel like that's difficult. To stay to. I mean, there
for one
needs to
thing,
be
this
more-
is like what John Mark has been saying this whole time. Like we got to discern that with our pastor, spiritual director. We got to discern that privately on some level.
Yeah.
But
I think so. I think there's a truth and there's a potential falsity to that.
Agreed.
The truth there is that, in one sense, yes. Again, think of the people in the gospel. There was no one who was so unworthy or so sinful that it was wrong for them to run up to Jesus and ask him for healing and ask for whatever gift he would want to give them.
Yeah.
And so there's a truth to the sense that the greater sinner we are, the more that we need that the body and blood of Christ. Now, the difficulty and the danger there is that how do you know that you're discerning properly? How do you know that you're really not just presuming on God's mercy? Well, that's what we have the sacrament of confession. We have this place specifically to go to be sure. How do we be sure? Because we're actually going to say it out loud.
yeah,
We're gonna prove to ourselves that we really are sorry, that we really do want God's mercy, that we
Right.
really do know that we're a sinner, and we're gonna receive the specific sacramental healing that God has given us for that. And so we should use that. I guess that's all I have to say about that.
and not receiving in some ways, not receiving is a way of you recognizing to God that you were unworthy.
right. Like a repentant, like it holds you accountable to a repentant approach to that circumstance. Not
That's
like
when-
not one of like what I'm doing is okay enough for me to like. It really forces you to acknowledge like I've made some mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that there's a component going back to our last conversation about authority. There's a component of it that is like humbling to do it God's way
Yes.
rather than just the way we want. Like
Yeah.
if Jesus gave us the sacrament of confession and that's where he administers his healing, that's where we should be going for it.
Amen, brother. Preach it.
All right. That's the conversation on communion and receiving or abstaining.
That's our messy synodal conversation. We're just like alive in the synodality tonight. I'm feeling it.
Love that.
I'm
So-
feeling the synodality.
It feels good.
500 degrees.
Yeah, it's pretty warm in here.
Getting pretty warm. Yeah.
All right. So if you enjoy this show, if you enjoyed these conversations, John Mark, would you like to tell them what they can do?
Hey, if you are at all enjoying even a small little bit this men's show, this digital men's night that you can be a part of, hey, join our patron community at League of Ordinary Gentlemen and Ladies. If you go to themenshow.com, you'll see the different ways you can support the show, different levels, and some cool stuff you get connected to those levels. I think one of them is wrong. We have to take the last one
All
off.
right, we'll fix
but
it.
no one's going to donate that much, or are they tonight?
Oh.
I don't know. Check out themenshow.com and join our patron community as a supporter, and there'll be the full live unedited versions of our live streams,
What you're experiencing here live will be available to any members of the patron community.
as well as other cool stuff that we do from behind the scenes. We're gonna make some funny merch, based on some of our inside jokes, and be talking about some of the stuff behind the scenes. And so we'd love to have you part of that synod of extraordinary ladies and gentlemen. And I forgot the tagline.
and we're really
I'm gonna work it.
we're
I'm gonna really
exhausting
work it
it
tonight. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I love it.
Exhausted.
I'm gonna milk this cow.
And then finally, to interact
stop.
with us in our community, or even to access your patron benefits and perks. But there's a lot of other cool stuff there too. There's a music library, prayer library, several different groups you can be a part of. Make sure to go to theawakenapp.io or go in the Play Store and Apple App Store. Just search for Awaken or Awaken Catholic and get our community app. And we're all there. And Rob is of all of us, Rob is the most active in the community. And,
Every day.
he makes several posts every day. It's super
live
obnoxious.
video reflections
Yes.
every morning. I've seen it. It's good. It's good stuff.
All right, let's move to our third conversation here,
I
gentlemen.
need another drink. Does anyone need anything?
I would love one.
Are we
Thank
taking
you.
a quick
Could I get a
break here?
water?
Oh yeah, wait, he can bring us stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Ethan, yeah.
Ethan, what a man.
Also,
It's
you
a,
can-
a Topo Chico from the
from the fridge upstairs, please.
Nice.
You can also follow me on Twitter and
Where are you seeing these
Instagram.
comments? I don't even know
And
how this works.
what are the other ones?
Is the normal one okay?
I'm
That's
not-
totally I brought my own. I don't want to take from anyone else. In case that's.
I'll have
thing.
that one that's there, and then give Kevin one of the ones he brought.
Are all of our 7 fans watching? I mean,
Anybody
I just want to know here.
Yeah, we got people watching.
Nice. Nice. Sound off about,
Anything else I can get?
I don't know.
Yeah, follow us.
Fashion
Water,
choices.
cold,
Follow
Who's
us
got
on
the best-
Instagram.
the best?
At
cold.
Type 1 in the
Cold
chat
type
if you love
water.
Ethan.
I can't wait till we get Ethan's reaction.
Oh,
Kevin.
Ethan
This
texted
is
me.
gonna be great.
Do we plug the patrons and app again? Yes, we do, Ethan. Sorry. Oh man.
This is really fun. I like the live aspect.
Yeah, it's
of
super
this.
super fun.
Fun, so.
are the
Yeah, keep the
insults?
questions
Is
and
it fun
comments
for you?
coming.
Yeah.
I was talking to them.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, are you enjoying this?
I want to go home.
You can follow us on Instagram at The Men's Show, and also on Facebook. And we got a YouTube
We're
channel
doing it
now.
on YouTube too.
You know, if you just go to themenshow.com, it links you to everything.
I'm trying to go now. I don't see this men's show.
Oh my gosh, we got I don't think we said anything about it, but we got that one bad thing
thank
on
you.
our video.
what?
We didn't
bad
mention
thing?
it at
Oh,
all,
the-
did we?
Oh, crap.
No, actually, we did.
On that previous one.
At the last episode, we
Our
did
bad.
talk about the thing that you can't talk about.
Oh, thank you.
Can we have the bottle opener?
Wait,
Yes,
so
yes, I
they
can get the voucher.
Thank
so
you,
they
sir.
say that we are
We're fake news.
Oh.
Fake
Yeah.
news.
Well, fake-ish news.
we're not big moves.
We're fake adjacent.
It's because I did the southern accent.
All right, Kevin, are you ready? I'm going to toss this to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ethan. You're amazing.
All right. Who's starting
All right,
us off?
hopefully I don't break
Topic
anything.
number 3.
Nice.
Nice.
All right.
Oh.
What?
We forgot to pray before the show.
Oh, no. All right.
It was like even on the
discount
schedule and everything.
discount everything we've said up to this point.
You knew something was off. Well, we can pray quickly. In the name of the Father,
Man,
Son,
we
and the
really-
Holy Spirit.
yeah.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for all your blessings. We thank you for the gift of the church. We thank you for the gift of the Holy Eucharist. We thank you for the gift of this time to discuss as friends, as brothers, as a community, the faith that you have given us, this life you've invited us into, the life, your divine life that you've given to us through baptism. I ask you to bless this conversation, bless those that listen to it. May we simply, from a place of humility, just share with one another, share your love with each other, and seek the truth together. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Ugh.
I wanted to circle back around your complaint about that thing. I think you're wrong, and it's dumb.
What was
I think there is something significant, whether or not we're ending with
About being redundant?
the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, to emphasize being in Christ, because it is in Christ. I mean, it is in Christ
Right.
that we are
is
brought
heretic
into the life of the
here.
Trinity.
I have no qualm.
It is because of Christ.
I have
we can-
no qualm
we can
with
call God
that
Father. It is
principle.
because of Christ.
I have no qualm with that principle. My qualm is with the redundancy.
I mean, Catholics are just never redundant. Like, that's not even a thing. like goodness forbid that we would ever be redundant. Yes.
that's awesome. All right. So, our next topic. Kevin, you want to bring us into this one?
Oh gosh, I think I have the order wrong. Let me see.
They're listed on the post I made on Instagram a little while ago.
The third one was on discipleship.
All right. So while Kevin pulls
don't
this
let
up,
me do this. Don't let me do this.
Don't let
Rob,
me
you got this one. I believe in you.
down.
Before,
Kevin.
Oh,
before
actually,
we
yeah,
get
I got
into
it.
it, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin's going to bring us into this topic, but before we do that,
I don't know what it is.
You'll hear it.
well, then we
gonna
should
hear it.
definitely have
Tell us.
Rob do it.
All right.
Have Rob do it.
Our next topic is
Before we get into it,
I don't know.
before we get into it, welcome back to the Men's Show, everyone. I am Nick.
I am John Mark Grodi.
I am called Rob.
I am he who is named Kevin. Jory.
Okay.
It just got weirder as it went to that
Just
side
showing
of the
us
room.
up, John Mark. Just showing us up. Man, we're going to have some great conversations today. Before we dive into it, I just want to make sure that you know what John Mark is about to tell you.
Hey, Hey, you should go to themenshow.com. I need my, oh, there it is. The League of the Ordinary Gentlemen and Ladies Are Invited Too is the name of our patron community. If you like what we're doing on this show, this digital monthly men's night that you can be part of, you can be part of the live stream, or you can watch the individual episodes. But if you want to help support the show and, participate in the live stream, get some of the fancy behind the scenes stuff that we're going to have in that community, then check out themenshow.com, where you can support the show at different levels. There's some cool perks there. Make this possible. This League of Ordinary Gentlemen and Ladies Are Invited Too.
Indeed they are. Indeed they are. And they will come. Build it and they will come. We built it and the ladies will come.
Yes.
To the show.
We're still waiting.
It's their favorite show.
You're a good patriarch, Nick.
And then the last thing you need to know is about the Awaken app. Visit theawakenapp.io on your computer or browse, the computer browser, iPad, whatever you got.
Okay, Grandpa.
Or on your telephone, dial
The rotary, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, what's the number for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need people calling into the show, actually. Call this number right here.
Collins, yeah.
Anyways, theawakenapp.io or in the App Store, Google Play Store. Check it out. We have a great time there. Lots of great stuff from Awaken happening, including individual groups for each of the shows, like this one. Check it out. That's all I got for you. Kevin,
good. Well
bring
done.
us in, baby.
All right, so for our topic right now, we are going to be diving into discipleship, modern discipleship, male friendship.
Gross.
I guess it doesn't have to be a male, but what do how do you do it? How do you don't do it? And what kind of should you be having breakfast? Like, should you have a weekly breakfast, maybe with a group of guys and talk about these types of topics? But I personally, I feel like I've been discipled a lot by you guys, and we have a really great Catholic community around here of really, really strong families. Where I would struggle on it is am I ready to disciple someone else? Have I gotten rid of enough heresies where I am not, spreading misinformation? So what do you guys think?
I'll take that. No.
No? Okay. All right, guys. See you later.
Why haven't you been coming to men's group? Where have you been,
snap.
You
Kevin?
guys are going to do this on air.
You didn't
Where
know
have you
this,
been?
but Nick, Pete, and I have our own men's group.
There are people
you
in,
really?
Wait,
We
hold
have a
on.
schismatic
There
men's
are
group.
people.
What are you kidding?
Hold on.
Right
hold on.
now.
I have met people
I'm sorry,
who
man.
are in men's group with this guy, Nick, and Kevin, and they're like, yeah, and I've never actually seen Nick Dillatore. He's in my
No idea
group.
who I am.
Never actually met the man.
Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna. I plead the fifth. Also,
Discipleship.
we got
What
a new
is
comment.
discipleship?
We got
Go.
a new comment in the videos.
Yes.
It's from one Rob Holler. Nick, why are you the way you are?
Wait a minute. Hey, focus here.
Go on.
Okay, discipleship. Sorry. What is discipleship?
Wait, Rob, did you actually?
Oh, I would love a
Wanna-
definition. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Well, what is to disciple? John Mark, I'm looking directly
Oh
at
my
you.
gosh.
Wait. What is the distinction between the word disciple and apostle, or are they explicitly synonyms?
Well, apostle means sent, one who is sent, right?
Right.
Obviously.
But are they? I mean,
the
they're-
12 apostles were referred to as the 12 apostles for a reason.
because they were sent.
Was that?
Are we not all sent?
Yes.
So
So
But we're
mean,
all
the church is
humans, so we
apostolic.
don't just call them the humans.
we had the reading.
Just because it's a commonality
good point.
doesn't mean it's the same.
that's right. We went over that already.
It's just-
I
it's
don't
just-
know.
I
I'm sure
always-
there's
to be honest
someone,
with you,
someone in the comments tell us the
all
basic
of the
distinction
years
between
that
those
I've been in ministry, all of the times I've spoken in front of hundreds or thousands of people, I approach the word, like when I have to go say the 12, and
You flinch.
I flinch because I'm like, wait, shoot,
Which one?
is it disciples or apostles? Every single time.
Yeah.
What is that? Why?
I don't know. Someone tell us.
Disciples are like, are they not those who are taught and those who follow?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
accurate.
And apostles are
they
those who
they
are
do mean something different, but I wanted to put it out there because we refer to these guys almost interchangeably, but they aren't the same word.
Yeah.
They are different words.
Cool. We've established that. Sweet.
Cool, guys. All right. So,
Disciple and apostle. Disciple is spelled D-I-S-C-I-P-L-E.
Discipline, disciple. Is there something
Apostles,
there? Etymology? Yeah.
Different
Okay.
word.
Yes, there is.
Starts with an A.
awesome.
Don't
All
make
right.
me finish it.
So we are called to be disciples, but there's this notion in Christianity of the kind of relationship that we ought to have with one another and with our children and with new people who are new to the faith. Is a relationship of discipleship, and I guess the way I always think of it is just in terms of Christ's example himself. That you can get on a stage and speak to a whole crap load of people, but you can only disciple so many.
Yes.
Like it comes down to he had an actual relationship with a smaller group of men that he got to know them. He was part of their lives, and there were some women who were part of his close band too. But that there was a relationship of sharing the faith, of living life together, of encouraging, of iron sharpening iron. And I think that's the key that we're trying to get to here, is that we have lots of relationships of faith in the world today. Like we live in families, we're in communities, we're at parishes with fellow parishioners and the priests and the people. But a discipleship relationship where we're really on the same road together and we're challenging each other and helping each other along this road to walk with Christ. Sometimes we struggle to with the question of, are we doing that the way it ought to be done? What does it look like? What should it look like?
I have a quick question too. So there is the person doing the discipling, and then there is the person who is receiving the discipleship.
I feel like as, in our modern culture, like none of us stand in the position of Christ. None of us are wholly above the other.
Right.
And I
Right.
feel like in that respect, like there's always mutuality.
Mm-hmm.
Even
yeah,
like
yeah.
in my men's group, like I can't say that any particular person is there just learning.
Right.
There is mutuality there. Now there are also relationships where, clearly, you're bringing someone into Christian friendship.
Like a mentorship.
Oh.
Yeah. So I
Ow, this is so bad.
finish that thought, Rob.
Yeah, keep going, man.
I can't think of anything else.
Okay,
after
because
Kevin
I
said
actually,
that.
if that's where you're going to leave it, I think I disagree. At the notion that that mutuality is always at play.
Oh, then I heartily disagree with you.
I disagree with your disagreeing.
Name a relationship.
I don't know what I think.
Yeah,
I'm
every
here-
relation.
Name a positive relationship where there's not a mutuality. To
No,
that
let me
discipleship.
qualify what I'm
What is a
saying.
mutuality?
Well, where both parties are benefiting from each other's
Gotcha, okay.
interaction in a way that's similar to
Not
Let-
even similar. Even I look at my own son, who I start to tell truths
Okay,
in the face and things.
okay, but-
we are not on the same level.
Of
we
course,
don't have the
but
same
that's-
maturity. But
Yeah.
like the blessing in my life, and that's true of anybody at any age, be they old or young.
Yeah.
They have something to offer and something
I
to
just
give.
don't know what that distinction is worth then, because that's of course true of literally any relationship, a teacher and their student. Like to me, what Kevin was asking about the word disciple and like what do you call the person receiving that discipleship, and then that's kind of where you stepped in and you were starting to
Okay.
say that stuff.
I had a very specific next thing I was going to say though.
Okay.
So like that person being discipled, do they have to accept like some part of it before they can be discipled? Because what I find a lot of times is I have a lot of secular friends. I have some Protestant friends. Sometimes questions arise like, you guys think this, or the church did that really stupid thing. What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah.
Like those types of things happen. So I would say like in that instance, there's no discipleship happening. It's almost like apologetics maybe, but a very rudimentary one that has a relationship element. But like the person being discipled, how much do they need to do they need to accept something? I think probably. And then how much do they need to accept?
Okay.
Something like along those lines. I'm really interested in that.
60%.
Okay, so I'm gonna be a good Thomist.
So
when in
a
doubt,
solid D.
a good Thomist here. When in doubt, make a distinction. Okay, so there is a distinction between two aspects or two types of discipleship we might talk about here. I think it's important though that that one we were talking about and you were sort of dismissing.
Well,
No,
I was misunderstanding what Rob was saying.
But what we're talking about, this sort of mutuality that we should always have in conversation, in relationship.
Yeah.
That should be the baseline, because that's really just living out humility. You know, I think I like the way Jordan Peterson put it in his book. It was like always always assume the person you're talking to has something to teach you or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's a quality of how you listen, how you interact with other people. It's from a place of humility. Now, it's from that baseline. If we're all trying to strive for that kind of mutuality, and as Christians, that kind of mutual discipleship, then it's from that place. Then I think those who have the skills to teach, or those who are called into ministry like a priest, are able to, again, even within that humility, take a place of more specific teaching, and then those who want to be discipled, who need to be discipled in a more specific way, can take that place too. But again, both of those positions, for them to be really fruitful, the teacher and the taught in a class or in a whatever the scenario, both still have to come from that place of humility and mutuality. So I think that there's a general discipleship amongst all Christians that we should be practicing, in that we should all recognize our common call to holiness, that none of us can opt out from this.
Share like a bunch of like Christian memes, like we're all in the same community.
Every day. You have to share them all the time.
That's the baseline.
You have to set the baseline of radicality and humility. We're called to this, and we need to challenge each other to this. We need to learn from each other. But then building on that, then you might want to seek out a spiritual director. Or it's great to, when you, like as men especially, it's great when you find a real manly priest, who can challenge you as a father and a brother in the faith, and can teach you and guide,
or an older brother along, someone who's more mature in their Christian faith.
Right? Yeah.
Or a younger brother.
In my own example, I was very explicitly discipled by Andrew Reinhardt very early in my journey.
Haven't we all at some point been?
Well, but like explicitly, like. And maybe that's what you mean.
I was joking.
Did you say I am a follower of Andrew?
I would still say that. I would say that to this day. If you don't know who Andrew is, go watch the Awakened Catholic show called Physically Spiritual.
Yes.
But anyways, no, but like we would meet. He would meet with me once a week at least over breakfast, and he would pick out books that we were going to read through together. So like I got just inundated with the beauty of our faith, with theology books, with philosophy books, and he would just accompany me through the journey of diving into the principles that were being conveyed there, and talk through them with me every time we met, at least that once a week, if not more. And it was so formative for me, both in understanding what Christianity could look like, and also just how to understand the faith. And if there's anyone that I want to understand the faith like, it's Andrew. Yeah. Because dang, that dude. But that was such a powerful sacrifice that he made, because I was just some random jerk that was still trying to not be a terrible person. I'm still trying to not be a terrible person, but like it was a lot harder back then. And he took the time out of what was probably a busy schedule to sit with me that frequently, with that much, as Matthew Kelly calls it, carefree timelessness. And he was just with me, journeying with me, guiding me with whatever wisdom he had. That's discipleship.
Yeah, that's good.
We should have had Andrew on.
Yeah, I tried.
We'd make him blush. So here's a practical question. I mean, like there's two practical things. Let's make sure we discuss. And the first one would be, especially if we're all trying to strive for that baseline humility, well, then an outgrowth of that is to desire to be discipled. Like it's a healthy,
that's what I was trying
holy
to
thing,
you need
for us to desire elder brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers in the faith. And so practically speaking, like, how do you seek that out? Because you also, I mean, this is something they caution you in, like, seeking out a spiritual director, which is a very specific kind of relationship that you don't just like pick some random dude off the street. But so too, I think with this more general discipleship, like, what do we do? If we should desire that, so what do we do with that desire? How do we find those people? And
you kind of said it first. It has to start in humility, because if you're like a baby Christian and you're like, there's something here, I need to seek the wisdom of others, then you have to start with humility, because you're going to go into all of these places that you're unfamiliar with. And if you go with a sense of pride, then you're going to walk right back out. But you have to go in there knowing you are going to fail and you're going to look like an idiot. And you just have to be okay with it. And that's why I'm on this show right now. I'm ready for it. Let's do it.
And you mentioned spiritual direction. Like a lot of times people don't really get into the arena of speaking about that until they're further into the journey.
Right.
And that is, to me, that persistence to acknowledge that humility, that like I need continued guidance, I need continued direction. And maybe beyond that initial journeying, beyond that initial accompaniment and discipleship, now I'm ready to go deeper with, maybe we'll use another term that some of the world might understand, like I need a guru or something, like I need someone that's going to guide me deeper into this.
The love guru is what you're talking about.
Yeah. But so something I often think about here is that this was sort of a chicken and the egg thing that happens in our church, where we're all involved in ministries in different ways, and so there's people we want to help, we want to disciple, but like we can't give what we don't have,
right?
So we have to be solid in our faith, solid in our prayer life, but we also have to be discipled, and that's where I think too. Again, even if certainly seek out the saints in your life, seek out those people who really know the Lord, and allow yourself to be challenged by them a little bit. But I think even there too, like with Andrew, I think a good example where I too have felt discipled by him, over the years and different. I knew him back in seminary. But I think if he were here, I think he would say that even amongst us, we all look up to him as an older brother in the faith, but that there's a mutuality to that discipleship.
100%, yeah.
In that, it's not a merely one way, that we challenge him too by our trying to live out the life.
Well, but in the context of my relationship with him, and which is different because I wasn't in seminary with him and whatever, in the context of our relationship, it evolved into that. It absolutely was not that at the beginning, because I needed to humble myself and meet with someone with whom I was not a peer in my psyche. Like I needed someone that I was looking up to absorb wisdom, to absorb like, hey, what does this whole new life look like? Teach me, because I want to be a blank slate. I needed to be in a position where I wasn't trying to give him something. And so that was unique in our relationship, different than what you experienced with him. But I also feel like where I was at and the humility I needed to have, like that was crucial. But it evolved into that type of friendship. We were in each other's wedding parties, like we became very, very close, and still are to this day, thanks be to God. He hasn't gotten sick of me yet, but like, well, maybe he has it. He's still like, his reward will be in heaven.
Put it in the comments there, Andrew.
Yeah. So anyways, what you're saying is true.
Andrew's not on.
I just don't think it's always true
Sure.
at all stages of every relationship.
Well, another thing I was going to say here too is that the person who's doing the discipling, they have something in common with a teacher, as we might think of the teacher. But we're talking also about something that's more than just a teacher, because particularly we're talking about the faith. And this is true, I think, for all teachers too, but let's talk about it in the context of the faith. A disciple can't merely teach. They have to actually be a living embodiment of what they're trying to express.
And I would also go and say it's deeply tied into a resulting friendship. I think it has to be. And I think that's very much, it's like what Christ did. It was the result of it. There's no greater love than this, than to lay down your life for your friends, for one's friend. Now, he started as simply like more rabbi, in that position of teacher, rabbi, but like I call you friends.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point.
So I do, like, to me, like while you start there, like that mutuality, like I think it is like the fruit and the fullness of discipleship may be friendship and communion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's even again in a pale imitation of that. I mean, that's this amazingly scandalous grace that the Lord gives us, that we start from a place of perhaps servile fear of not wanting to go to hell or wanting to get out of the sins that are ruining our lives, but he invites us into divine friendship, and that's what we're called to. We can't presume on that. We have to start from the place of utter humility and discipleship, and we never actually leave the place of humility and discipleship.
Oh, we leave it all the time.
The Almighty
All
God.
the time.
But even so, he invites us into intimacy, into friendship.
Saying
And
we
so
should leave it. I'm just saying.
it happens.
We do it.
Yeah, all beautiful, good stuff, guys. So let's end with trying to address the other part of Kevin's question, which you kind of grazed on there, Rob. How do we know when we are ready to begin to disciple others?
Are you ready? Are you a Christian? Do you have friends? I don't know. I feel like entering into a relationship with other people, like making the strong distinction of like, I'm your teacher, I'm being taught by you. In
Is
the
there
world
a
where
difference between discipleship and fraternal correction and just journeying? Because I can say already, I can say with Kevin, because I know he's asking this question not as like some, theoretical example. He's asking because he's curious for himself.
Yeah.
And I can say with absolute certainty, Kevin, there have been moments that in a spirit of loving me, you have shared with me some thoughts that really helped me make the right call at a certain moment.
Nick, you should have breakfast right now.
That kind of thing, sure.
You need to fuel yourself.
And so
for this
I'm only
huge day.
highlighting this
You're
because, to Rob's point, like you're already doing that.
Yeah.
But it's not to discount, like we have like pastors, we have teachers in our lives.
Right.
We have people who we need to look to with deference,
Yeah.
and learn from them. But like, I don't know. I feel like we can't overcomplicate like being in relationship with other people and calling them on in the Christian life.
Yeah.
And
Right.
saying like, I have, I need to have like these 3 people
Hear my
under
flock.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it always, like every episode here, it just comes to that humility is ultimately the
Yeah.
thing. To be humble means to be a person who is striving to accept the truth of who God is and who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I proceed along the path of humility, I don't want to see myself as anything but what I am. Well, then I'm able to act rightly in any of the relationships in my life. If I have something to give, I give it. If I have something to receive in this relationship, I receive it. I'm not trying to play a role that is inappropriate for me, nor am I stepping back and being self-deprecating when I should offer a word of encouragement or a word of correction. So again, humility is always the keystone here, because that allows you to really be objective and ready for all the opportunities to learn, the opportunities to challenge and teach.
Yeah.
And I think that, kind of connected to our episode, the previous conversation we had, like remaining in a state of grace and remaining in the sacramental life and being in touch, in a constant interaction with the Holy Spirit, like turning to if you're feeling led to say something, turn to the Holy Spirit first. Say, Spirit, guide me. Like, is what I'm feeling right now the right thing to say? Like that.
So I should just never talk.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, but I think that's so important, because then we're at least operating from enough humility that we are conscious that we could be wrong about something, and we're
100%,
trying to allow God to move us to know that or not.
Just like here, like we're just dudes trying to be the best Catholics we can be. And we're trying to help each other on the way.
Some of us are doing a better job than others.
Rob, won't name names here.
Browns are up 7-0. Sorry.
Someone's recording.
What are you guys saying?
All right, this has been awesome, guys. Again, if you're enjoying these conversations, John Mark, tell them what they can do.
Yeah, well, again, we're I'm not going to say sin it again. We're a community of disciples, who are just trying to help each other follow our Lord Jesus Christ and be the men and women He's called us to be. And so, if you are a man or you are a woman, come join the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and ladies are invited too, at themenshow.com. Where you can get access to the live streams, the full recordings, other fancy stuff, and again, depending on the level you can see makes sense in your budget to support the show. We got some cool special stuff for you.
Indeed.
But I can't remember what it was. I haven't read the page.
Indeed.
Do we though?
And make sure to get the app.
We do.
The
Have we
Awaken app.
ordered it?
We can't do the
we have
Father
anything?
Jeff shirt anymore, the limited edition, because
We could.
Yeah. I wonder if he'd allow us to.
He would.
Special
Or he
edition.
won't.
The
We'll ask him.
Nick, say what you say.
awakenapp.io or your Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
Yes. Or your
Awaken.
rotary phone.
Or All right.
On your car phone.
what's
Dial
the
star
number
67.
What's the number we text?
Star 67. Yep.
Oh my gosh. Cool. All right.
Send us a fax.
Yes. Awaken Catholic proudly does not have a fax number. All right. So, what are we talking about next?
I'm lighting back up for this one.
Are you?
I am. So I think my stomach is settled enough.
That's for
That's
me.
yours. Okay.
What are you going to do? Oh, the ultra wide. Ethan wanted to experiment.
Explore the space.
I love the darkness.
Yes.
Embrace.
Embrace the dark. No, don't embrace the darkness.
I mean,
Embrace the light.
Light yours, dude.
Light,
It's fine. I don't need mine.
No, that's all right.
Oh, look, you got the
All right.
it's only
so I ever
8:30
use
by
the
the
short
way
ones.
too.
Yeah,
So,
we're killing it.
I'll use
We are right on track.
Yeah, those feel great.
Nice.
We are right on track.
How are we doing out there, people? Like, are we having fun here yet?
I'm looking at, we have 0 watchers.
That is actually not true.
Oh, I don't see. Okay.
All right. So,
How many do we have?
How can we make the show better? Tell us how, because we want to make it.
I have some ideas. I'm gonna be honest. So we could have like a lightning round where we all talk about the last time we were the wimpiest that we ever were.
The wimpiest.
the most recent instance of
When
being
you were
wimpy.
you felt bad. You're like, man, I'm a wuss right now.
Okay.
So there's one.
Oh, wow.
And then we vote on who was the wimpiest, and they have to do 10 push-ups
On the show.
on the show.
People have to vote though, which means that people have to
Or
vote.
we could get a couple dumbbells, and we, it should be a,
Push-up contest.
Exactly.
I challenge you guys to a push-up
Yeah.
contest.
And then I can use that wide camera.
I'm sweating.
How many push-ups can you do?
I am
Let's
sweating.
sweat more in this little room.
Yes, exactly.
I can do 10
Listen,
push-ups.
if you want to help us
half.
get air conditioning in this room,
Oh my
then
gosh, it would be wonderful.
then become a patron of the men's show at themenshow.com.
Yes.
Oh man.
So what are we talking about next?
Like, comment, subscribe as well, please. They help.
All right, what is our next topic?
You could donate for us to get a bigger couch, and I wouldn't always have to be putting my arm around Rob.
I don't know.
It's-
I don't
it's quite
understand why
cozy
that's
here.
a problem.
It's quite cozy. Look at this. How cozy this is. Just
Fraternal
there's just not
man
much room.
relationships,
It's
you
just-
know?
Get right in there.
Just godly.
I'm just confused
Bigger
about why
couch.
this is an
You can get us a
issue.
bigger couch.
You're very friendly.
Yes.
All right. We're talking about hobbies. John Mark, this
I
was
love
Okay,
hobbies.
I'll introduce this one.
all right. So
I'm really excited.
give
about
us
this
like
one.
a super small tease, and then we're gonna cut from that,
That was my super small.
and we'll come back to it.
Oh, after the
We need to leave room for the intro.
Okay,
as well.
today.
We also, dude, we haven't been doing the intro.
We haven't been doing
You know
it
what? We're gonna
at
do the
all.
intro on this one. Ethan, get ready.
doing the
I hope
intro
you're
on
ready for this,
original one?
Ethan.
Ethan's
doing
over
it-
here like,
We're
come on,
doing it in
guys.
show or adding it afterwards?
I don't know. We just at least need to leave a good.
Because then the people who are watching live have to see that 4 times.
But they love it.
well, that's true. It's a pretty epic intro. Roll that intro.
No, not yet.
No, sorry. After
Yeah.
I preview it,
All right.
we're talking about.
Wait, you need this.
Oh, sorry. I don't know how to phrase this. Talking about hobbies and
Stuff and
skills,
things.
and we're talking about charisms. I don't know.
Is it possible to be a good man, a man of God, and have hobbies?
That's a dumb
Roll
question.
it.
No. Of
Roll
course,
it.
yes. Oh. Is that what? Stop it.
Other podcasts are like, yep.
It is
my God.
possible.
Welcome back to the men's show. John Mark, tell them about the cool opportunity we have for them.
If you go to themenshow.com, you can join our patron community, the League of Ordinary Gentlemen, and ladies are invited too, where you can get access to the live stream, the recordings, other special stuff, perks,
And most importantly, give us money.
and all that's a part of it. Yes. And
For a good reason.
Nick, would you tell them about the platform?
Before I get into that, I do also want to highlight that we could really use an air conditioner in this
It's
room
getting so warm.
and air filtration, because we're not going to not do the cigars and pipes and stuff. It'd really be great to have air filtration. So join the patron community that John Mark was just talking about, the League of Extraordinary.
I feel like that's not what the
the
money
League
should
of
be spent
Ordinary
on.
Gentlemen
Do we vote on that?
and ladies are invited.
and ladies are invited
Ladies
too.
too.
Yes.
What are we voting on?
Whether or not to get air conditioning in here?
No.
Rob has a better idea.
You have a better idea?
I
Anyways,
have no idea.
let me tell you about the app. Go to theawakenapp.io on your laptop, desktop, iPad, browser, or Android tablet. I guess some people have those still. And then also,
Wow, swipe on the Android users.
well, there's barely any. That's not a big market.
Androids?
Android tablets.
Tablets.
It's not a big
yeah.
market.
I literally own one.
Kindles.
Kindles. I don't know. I don't think we're on the Amazon. Anyways,
Are you on my LG Smart TV?
one day we're going to be on the LG Smart TV one day. Anyways, as I was saying, go to your Apple App Store, Google Play Store, download the Awaken app today to hang out with us. And Rob, you'll have to interact with Rob's post. He gets lonely when he makes those posts all the time, and nobody's telling him that no one's affirming him.
Yes.
It's really sad.
Let me take another run at this. Okay. So you guys know Jennifer Fulwiler?
Yeah.
She was in town recently. Okay, so she wrote this book called The Blue Flame, and she sort of coined this term. I don't maybe it was someplace before her, but her last couple books that she's written, which were very good, I recommend them for families. Talking about how God has given us skills, He's given us charisms, and you may or may not have, be blessed to have a job in which your particular skills and charisms, the things that really make you come alive, your art, your craft, your particular way of ministering to others is involved. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. For those who don't, because it's not all of us necessarily do, how do you discern and fit that into your life? And then especially if you're married, how do you help your spouse do that as well? Does that kind of make sense what I'm talking about here? That doesn't make any sense what I'm talking about. I'm getting some
Spouses having hobbies? What?
Kevin.
It's all about my hobby.
I don't allow Alina to have any fun.
I do other things than work here.
I hope so.
Like even aside, I'm blessed pretty well in my job. I'm able to do a lot of the things that I really love. I'm involved in the church. I'm involved with telling people about the faith, discipling people, and enabling my team to do that in the Coming Home Network.
I would love to hear what your what's your what's everyone's hobbies?
Apart from that, though, I really love philosophy, and I love reading. I love studying that, and I've been blessed with singing also.
Yes,
opportunities like this where I get to read and then kind of just share the mental vomit of all the stuff I've been reading about. Sorry,
you get to talk about the cardinal virtues.
I get to talk about the virtues. Oh my gosh, that is my thing.
Yeah, it sure is.
So that's the point: is that that we have
jazzed for those
skills,
virtues.
we have charisms that God has given us that may or may not be part of our main day job. So then, how do we discern where those fit? How we pursue those alongside our primary vocations as family guys, and then alongside our day job? Where do we fit that in? Does that make sense? Does that make more sense now?
Yeah, it kind of gets into the territory of self-care and how to do that well.
I hate that word.
What?
I hate those words.
Why do you hate that word?
I don't know.
You don't take care of yourself?
Self-care. Ugh. Can we make it more manly? Help me out here.
We need a manly version of self-care.
Here's how we fit it in.
Okay.
30 minutes, once a month, 11:30 p.m.
Wow, that was surprisingly easy.
There it is.
You heard it
That's
first
your
here,
free
folks.
time.
Wondered why
Enjoy.
I worried over that so much.
confused.
Actually,
Yeah, that's not how we're going to handle that. No, I think that we have to strive. We can come up with a better term for it, but we really need to. We need to be the healthiest men we can be, or women, if you're a woman, for our spouse, for our children, for our work, for the things that we're called to do for the kingdom. I know that when I have been the most overworked, the most stressed, whatever, it's when I've been the worst husband and the worst father and the worst minister of the gospel. So that taking care of yourself. Yes, Rob, your face. What do you?
I'm just thinking.
Okay,
It's my thinking face.
Keep thinking.
that's not a good one. You should come up with a different one because it freaked me out.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
But I just want to throw in specifically hobbies or things that are our passions.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Is it? And are those things so that they give our other things life, or good in and of
I
themselves?
think in leisure time.
Yeah, so John Mark likes
good.
to reference the fact that we were made for leisure. Can you talk about that?
I love,
Well, you can talk about that just as well as I can. This is our boy
certainly
Peeper.
cannot.
You and me and Peeper makes 3. Joseph.
Wow, we are good friends, the three of us.
Yes,
Except he died before we were
His
born.
book, The Leisure, the Basis of Culture, he talks a lot about, we...
You guys need a minute?
Moment of silence.
A good friend.
We were made for the Sabbath. We are Sabbath people. We are called to work, right? That's part of the human condition, and work is good. But we are people of the Sabbath. We work. We don't rest on the Sabbath in order to go do more work. Work isn't the point. We work to create that space of worship, that place of true leisure, and we want to talk about what that means, true leisure. So again, not just so we can go out and work more, but perhaps so that our work can take on some of the characteristics of our Sabbath. That we remain in the presence of God, that we remain in a place of peace. What we fill our leisure times with, what our hobbies are. Again, we all encounter this distinction in our lives where we have a day off, and sometimes we spend it scrolling on social media or doing something stupid that we might crave in a certain sense, but it doesn't fill us up. It doesn't refresh us. It doesn't make us more alive. It deadens us. Whereas we have other things, that do refresh us, that are good things to fill our leisure with. And I think in particular with this topic is that I think we all have then something or things specific to us, like again specific charisms or passions that God's given to us. It might be writing, or we have a friend, for instance, that Teresa gets together with the ladies. They do ladies' nights, whatever. And one of the moms just loves to bake. She just gets so jazzed about it. She makes the coolest stuff.
Convenient.
It works out really well.
Yeah.
And they enjoy it too. It's not everybody's thing, but it's her thing.
Yeah.
She loves to do it for them, and they love to enjoy it.
That's awesome.
So the point is that we have some of those things, and they should be something positive. Something God gives us those callings.
And I often find they're a blessing to other people.
Yeah.
It's not something done for our subsistence or like the everyday getting by, but it's just like an unnecessary blessing.
Yeah.
I also think it helps in this culture that says you are worth as much as you can offer society. So we have this like real pressure, like what are you contributing to society? What is your O2 output? What is your, what are you contributing to the economy or doing to save the planet or whatever it is? Like, what are we doing? And
What is your O2 output?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I don't know.
I'm actually just curious.
I feel like you're
Kevin's
not putting.
a zero now. He got a Tesla.
Does anybody put
Wow,
out
shots
O2 for the record?
I don't know, man. It's chemical. Listen,
I drove my Jeep over here, by the way.
I'm a
You're just planting
musician.
trees. Okay, got it. Sorry.
You're causing global warming.
We just got a new comment. Speaking of our O2 output, we just got a new comment from some really hot blonde. Her name is Alina De La Torre. She says, "Quit smoking in my
I
house."
approve this message.
I'm so sorry, Elena.
We're so sorry.
I will put it out.
We will.
Should I?
Should we?
That's between you and her.
You I thought we were allowed.
I thought you were the man of the
I
house.
thought you
Nick.
cleared this.
Yeah, Nick.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
Well, it's getting warm in here.
Say.
Anyways, I think in this society that really trains us, programs us to find our worth in how much we're accomplishing, how productive we are. It's so important for us to rein in that tendency and that compulsion to or by resting and seeing that resting is good and doing things that are restful, doing things that bring us joy just because that thing was a good thing to
something
do.
good in itself. And this is where this whole topic it's connected with the phenomenon of art, right? You may not be a specific like high artist, like you may not be writing music or doing sculpture, whatever.
Lots of artists happen to be
But in a
high, though.
well, there's
Oh my
so
gosh.
there is that. But in a more broad, under a more broad definition of art, we are all called to be artists, and it is that. Oh, so sorry. No more smoking.
Alina's yelling at us from the control
Okay,
room.
we are officially the cigars are nixed. Okay.
What?
Anyway,
There's video evidence that they're not mine.
nixed. Sorry. But when you do art, so art in the broad sense, right? We're all called to be artists. That is, we are created in the image of God, and part of that image is that we are sub-creators, right? We do things not merely instrumentally, things that are good only insofar as what they produce, but things that are good in themselves. Like to worship God is just good. It's not, we don't worship God so I checked it off my Sabbath day list. No, I worship because it in itself is good. When I spend time with my kids, that in itself is good. I don't just spend my time to get my 30 minutes so I can check it off so that they're going to be well-adjusted individuals.
Right.
No, I do it because it itself is a worthwhile activity. Yeah. And so that's one of the commonalities here, is that the kinds of things that we fill our leisure time with, and especially those particular things that are maybe connected to our particular passion or our personality, are those things we find that particular art where we do something that is good just in itself.
Yes.
And again, most of us aren't artists in that more formal sense, but we all are artists in this general sense of there's some craft, there's some skill, there is some contribution that we are to make, but just the doing of it gives us life and jazzes us up.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
It's our participation in subcreation.
Yes, when it's a creative activity. So what I was about to ask is how do we apply this? Because I think that there are some things that we can do that are good and restful and can be a healing activity that are not explicitly creative.
Like sitting down and watching a flower.
Well, okay, but no, maybe
Sitting
like
outside and stargazing.
Yeah, enjoying a beautiful night sky, maybe watching a movie with friends or with a spouse, or even like, man, I love that my wife right now has recently gotten into playing Animal Crossing. It's a video game on the Nintendo. She has so much of her life like struggled to like just chill the frick out, and she's really enjoying, and I am enjoying the look of peace on her face now that she's like allowing herself to do this, and like that's not a creative thing per se, but man, is it good for her. Like she's really enjoying that.
I mean, I feel like video games in and of themselves are of the devil and they're evil. So,
which reminds me,
I didn't think Pete was here tonight.
I really miss Pete.
I'm here for you.
I didn't say anything.
Thanks, Kevin.
No, but truly, like there are those things that are very good and healing, even if they aren't explicitly creative. So how do we kind of?
There is creativity in Animal Crossing. That game.
You're not wrong.
There
yeah,
is the ability to be creative.
Yeah.
However, it may not be, as we've talked about in leisure episodes, the highest form of a leisurely activity. You can always go higher or lower, or all that stuff. So, John Mark, do you agree with that? Like,
I'm pondering many things.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
It's not explicitly creative when we are in contemplation either, right? There's some of our prayer where we are creative, where we speak to God, we bring ourselves to God. We have to do something. But then there's that prayer where we sit back and we
marvel
don't. Yeah,
we marvel at creation.
So there's
but it is an affirmation of creation.
Yeah, maybe that's
I think the common character of when we create and when we contemplate is the affirmation of what is and what's good.
Yes.
I like that a
with
lot.
God.
Wow.
That fundamental expression of love that it is good that you exist.
That's real good.
Is to see it and to affirm it. Because again, when you affirm the goodness of creation, you are taking sides with God. Right? Because God is the one who looks on his creation and says, it is good. And my plan is good. Like it's gonna be. I'm on God's side when I affirm that and I rest in that. I'm not on God's side when I'm worrying, or when I'm doubting God's goodness, or I'm doubting that things are going to be okay. But when I'm able to marvel at creation, and affirm the goodness of things, I'm saying I'm with God on this.
And in imitation, I think that's a link between the creation and art and worship.
Yeah.
Is that affirmation?
Yeah, I think so.
And to be like God and to create like God and to say this is good and this is.
Yeah.
Well, that's like you. So God created. And then we're marveling at that and we're contemplating. Maybe in the same way, people can do that for other people's creations.
Oh,
is it similar?
Eat a delicious, freshly made pumpkin pie and just say, "Oh, that's good." You even
cinnamon crunch bagel Panera.
Contemplating.
Those are good. Yeah, but like with the friend of Teresa's that likes to bake, like the role of Teresa and the rest of the friends that aren't the one that bakes, like their role is not creative per se, but they are enjoying and participating in that creation by receiving it, appreciating it, experiencing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Enjoying it. Yeah, enjoying.
Yeah. So the creative aspect, I think that covers, or that should cover all range of activities. I think one of the things that happens in our life, if we take seriously the Sabbath, so both the contemplative, worshipful awe of the Sabbath of God, but also leisure activities where we are really being creative. We really are imaging God in our activity. That what we find is when we go back out into our work, the rest of our lives, the rest of those activities, it may not be our favorite things, our passionate things, that ideally that stuff teaches us how to do those other things better, right? So that we worship God in Mass, the highest thing, but then we go out and even walking through nature or being with other people, we're able to see them differently. We're able to, see God in them. We're able to marvel at their goodness precisely because we learned that in that relationship with God. Well, so too, I think we all, have specific creative passions somewhere in our life, whether it's just taking care of our family or our home or our property or a sport that we like to master, or an actual craft, or a specific kind of ministry. When we really embrace those things, part of what we're also learning there is how to do everything else in our life, which is from this place of peace, this place of creativity, this place of co-creating with God, so that even the things that are kind of menial or boring we're supposed to do in our lives, we try to do them differently. We try to see the goodness in them. We try to see God even in the small things.
And we keep them in a proper context.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we can do is we put work over these things and we flip the world on its head. I think we do it constantly.
Yeah.
I think that's our modern temptation, is to rest so that we work
Yeah.
and not work so that we rest. And when we rest and we live in communion with God, like really we see our work as an extension of that.
Yeah.
Rather than, we are doing these things so that we can work. We don't see work as a means but an end.
Yeah,
and
right.
that is terrible.
Yeah, and again, if we put it in the right order, if we learn to value the things that are ends in themselves, again, our Lord, the good people He's created, the good things He's created, we see the beauty in them. Well, then we can even go back to our work, which again is an instrumental thing in a certain respect.
Yeah.
We can appreciate it differently, though.
Yep.
Yeah, and to bring this down to like a real practical reality that a lot of people face, like so many people I care about that like live in big cities, even family members of mine. Miami, Florida is where I'm from. Traffic there, rush hour is stupid. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this incredible cultural pressure there. Not that this doesn't exist elsewhere, but there is an immense cultural pressure in South Florida to look successful. So you get a house that's way more expensive than you can afford. You get a car that's way more expensive, 2 cars that are way more expensive than you can afford between you and your spouse. You live your life with both spouses working full time. Kids are at school and at daycare to whatever degree that's also necessary. They spend their days waking up way too early, going to work, driving an immense amount of time, spending a full work day, an immense amount of time on the drive back, spending maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours max with their kids, going to sleep and doing it all over again, all of that to sustain this lifestyle of maintaining the perception of success and affirmation from others. And literally life is about that work and that
hustle.
success, the hustle, rather than not that.
Right.
And it's miserable. I watch people I care about living that, and it's like, man, I don't want ever to be in that position.
No.
It's like that. I think I've probably told this before, but the story of the fisherman.
Yes.
I did do that.
Tell it
You did.
again.
Tell it again.
So
I'll
good.
do a truncated version because it's a little long. There's this guy fishing on a pier. This other guy, this old, I don't know if he's old. Just a guy. He's on a pier. He's fishing. Right?
Unknown age.
And the other guy's like, hey, why don't you catch more fish than what you're catching? And then you could sell the extra and take them to the market. And and then he said, well, and then what? And then you could, well, what would I do with that? Well, you get another fishing pole. You could get more fish. I said, well, what would I do? What then?
Yeah.
And he said, well, you could buy a boat, and you could eventually works it up to say, well, you can do this whole fishing company, and then you're going to end up with making more money than you could ever need, and then you could do whatever you want. And then what? He said, well, then you could fish all day. Which is what the guy was doing in the first place.
Right.
Like, it's just like
Yeah.
this idea we have of like work for work's sake, without the ends in mind.
Yeah.
The proper end of man.
Yeah.
And again, that's the place we all want to end up. I mean, we aren't. Not everyone is blessed ultimately with a way of bringing home the bacon for their family that also corresponds with that creative thing in their life. Like ideally, they would. But if they lean into the Sabbath, if they lean into worship, and if they lean into that creative outlet in their life, again, they learn how to affirm the goodness of God's creation. They learn how to image God in expressing their creativity in the specific way that God calls them to. Well, then they can even hopefully go back to their work and find the creativity there, find the excellence, find the way of giving glory to God even in that aspect of their life too.
Amen.
Nick, what would you say is your personal creative outlet, or like where do you find your leisure? What are your things?
To be honest with you, right now I struggle more than I would like to have leisure time. Just because outside of Awaken, I run another company as well, so it's like a lot.
Do you think, friend comment zone?
Okay.
Do you think you turn your leisure into work?
Do I
Question
turn my
mark.
leisure into work.
Because I imagine there's aspects of this ministry that you love or really enjoy doing. Do you have a tendency to turn those things into work?
So certainly, but I also feel called to that. Where I would say there's a difference, or like where I would say what you're describing is maybe more problematic is like with my music. So love music. I've always loved producing music since junior high, and when now I spend more time making music for other people so I can sustain my family. I end up not making my music or my wife's music, although we did just release a song for her, which is awesome. You should go check it out.
Yeah.
What's her?
It's on the Awaken app, Forgotten Country.
It is on the Awaken app.
Check it out.
It's called Forgotten Country, and her
I have
artist
access
name
to
is.
that. I have the Awaken app.
Yeah.
What is it?
Her artist name is Arain.
What? Tell me about that.
What? No, hold on.
I don't
There's too many things. So, my point is what you're getting at is absolutely valid, and like, every time Alina and I catch ourselves after months of totally ignoring our own music, we're just like, what are we doing with our lives?
Yeah.
And it's not that we haven't been making music; it's that we haven't been making music in leisure, and that is our music, that we are being creative, that it's not doing that.
Well, and do you find yourselves recharged when you do make time for that?
Oh my gosh, it is so life-giving, not only in the leisure sense, but like for our marriage, because music is so at the core of our marriage.
And that's one of the points. Again, I really highly recommend Jennifer Fultweiler's books, One Beautiful Dream, and then The Blue Flame, which was kind of the follow-up book, kind of building on some of the things that she realized over the course of that autobiography bit of One Beautiful Dream. But that was kind of her thing. So she was just quick recap of Jennifer Fultweiler. She's super awesome. She was an atheist who became Catholic, very smart, very, very sharp, she and her husband. But she was a writer beforehand, and then she became Catholic and just, fully embraced and loved, the family life. And she had a bunch of kids, and they have a busy, messy family life. And the second book, she wrote a book about her conversion. Her second book, One Beautiful Dream, was about this question, though. Now she's busy with this family, but she still feels called to do some writing. And then she's discerning, well, is it selfish of me to try to make some space for that writing time in my life? And she's wrestling with that and discerning it, and some ups and downs. The conclusion, though, is that she discovered that to make some time for that, especially as a team effort of the family, again, in discernment with her husband, to say, this is something I think I'm still called to do. But that when they did make time for it, that recharged and refreshed her in such a way that she was able then to go back and be an even better mother and wife.
And put other things in perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Perspective, yes.
So I think that's when we think about how to fill our leisure time, as little as it may be, we want to keep in mind that there are specific skills or charisms or hobbies perhaps that do recharge us in that way, and we want to find that and image God in that creativity.
Kevin, what does that look like for you in your life?
It's different. Like I've personally been struggling with a couple things because like Nick, I'm not a musician, but I'm a drummer.
Kevin, you're a musician, man.
So
Kevin's a stupid good drummer.
I love drumming, and like I feel called to that. And
Describe what you do badly. I hit stuff with sticks and make sounds.
That's exactly what I hit stuff. But people need someone to hit stuff in their band, so that's me. But
You do it quite well.
So what's happening is like I play in a few different bands. I love the people that I play with, and when I play with them, I do feel recharged. But then we'll have like 3 or 4 gigs in a weekend, and it's like that first one. It's like a cup of water, you know. You drink the first one, and it's like, oh, so refreshed. And you drink the second one, you're like, oh. But like within those things, you know, there's room for play and creativity. But I recently couldn't drum for like 2 weeks, and I came back and I drummed for like 10 minutes, and I was recharged. And I got that feeling, and I was excited. I came upstairs, and I was like, Liz, my wife, awesome wife, beautiful wife. Hey, Liz, if you're watching. I was just like, I just had the greatest time ever.
Was it Phil Collins?
That's the only Phil I play, and it's glorious, and Phil Collins is amazing. But it's something like that. But then, like, you know, when does it take over? You have to discern all these things. You have to be prudent about these things. And even within those things, you know, when you're playing secular music, like what songs are okay to play? Are those songs I should play? I probably shouldn't play those songs. And like, there's a whole discernment process that
certain times you probably shouldn't be playing them, like 3 a.m.
That's totally right. Honestly, yeah. When I was younger and, you know, playing 2 a.m. shows, nothing good happens in those times, honestly. So, yeah, I would, you know, I love hearing about other people's hobbies and growing in those and learning new things. So,
What about you, Rob? You're next.
Oh man, why did I not think this would come to me?
I'll go last. You go. Unless you
I don't know. I just like to do stuff with my hands. I like to build. I like to.
You are great at this, by the way.
I like tiling. I like, I love home projects. I just love home projects, and it is very much work. Right. You know, it's not like, that's the funny thing about it is like and it's tiring, it's exhausting, but I just enjoy it, you know, and I love it when it's done.
And you've done some really cool creative stuff too. Like I really love what you did at the house that you guys are selling now. It's like really, really beautiful stuff.
Yeah. And that's probably like, you know, I certainly enjoy reading. That's a leisure for me. I've been out of it for a while. I just picked up reading again. And that's been good, but
for both my wife and I think our main thing is just, it's like studying and talking. That's what gets us jazzed up. And so, again, we find this in our own life. We've been blessed, and more so me, in terms of day-to-day life. I've given lots of opportunities to study and then go talk and get jazzed up about this kind of stuff. You know, read about the virtues and go talk about them. So I love that. I love doing that. The Blue Flame thing, you know, with Jennifer Fulweiler and her books meant a lot to us because we recognized in our marriage that we needed to prioritize making time for us to do that together. You know, both because I just have lots of opportunities for it, and Teresa has less opportunities just because, you know, we have busy home life. So we prioritize like making time for us to like listen to books together and discuss them, or to come to Awaken Catholic and do, you know, our show here at Awaken Catholic, because that's both she and I get really jazzed up by that. And I'm less of an extrovert, so it's not so much the like being around a bunch of people. It's more, you know, close, deep conversations. She is more of an extrovert. So sometimes, like, you know, she'll go off to a conference, or she'll go to ladies' night, or she'll go do something, and she'll just come back just like supercharged because she's been with people, she's been talking, she's been, you know, expressing her passion. And so,
and if you want to see more of what John Mark and his wife Teresa do, visit elevateordinary.com.
Yeah, we just schedule that time, come down here, and we just put a camera on in front of it while we just talk about things.
You guys do a beautiful job. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. Love this. Love
this
the
was like a typical fourth topic. You know? Like
it was great.
They're always a little bit more messy.
It was more personalized.
It worked.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. And the people loved it. I know that. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. No, there's more than two. There's more than two.
Three.
All right, guys, this has been great. Again, if you want to support this show and be a part of these conversations and get access to all the cool perks, make sure to join our patron community, which John Mark is going to tell you about.
The League of Ordinary Gentlemen and Ladies are invited also. Yeah. Go to themenshow.com. Live streams, special stuff, perks, I don't know.
All that jazz. And
It's really hot in here.
make sure it is warm. Make sure to help us join the patron community. Help us get some AC.
We're
and
doing
air
a
filtration.
fundraising campaign within the fundraising campaign.
Yes,
specifically.
but make sure to get the Awaken app. It's an awesome community. It's growing. We are over 1,000 people now, and it's super, super cool. Lots of different groups from the different shows, people that are into the different shows, and there's a music library, including the music my wife and I make, and her new solo act song. And there's a prayer library. There's all kinds of nice goodies. So visit theawakenapp.io or search for Awaken Catholic in your App Store or Google Play Store.
That's been the Men Show, I think.
Thanks for hanging around,
We have
guys.
been the men.
Until next time, thank you all.